Hello, worldwide live streaming audience. My name is Otis Guy, and tonight you're going to see our first live streaming event at the Marin Museum of Bicycling in Fairfax. And this is the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame induction. We do a ceremony every year, but because of the pandemic, we are doing 3 classes. The Mountain Bike Hall of Fame class of 2020, the class of 2021, and the class of 2022. You can go to Marin Museum of Bicycling on the website, click on MBHOF, which stands for Mountain Bike Hall of Fame, and you can actually look at those classes and see who's inducted if you want to look at their bios and have an idea to give you something to do on who these people are. Soon you're going to meet them and meet some of the participants who helped put this together. Thank you so much for attending this, and this is going to be very, very fun. Thank you. Everyone, we're going to be starting in about 10 minutes of the ceremony, so start thinking about getting ready. Everyone, grab a seat. We're about to start. Welcome, everyone. Come on down, have a seat. We're about to start. My voice is only going to last so long, and I've got a pretty big voice. So help me out here. So welcome, everyone. My name is Otis Guy. I'm the director of the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame and also a founding board member of the Marin Museum of Bicycling. Thank you so much all for attending our induction ceremony. Because of the pandemic, we're doing 3 classes, 2020, 2021, and 2022. We're also, for this first time, live streaming the event on YouTube. So we've got 3 cameras set up here. Also, a few of us might be doing interviews during the break there. Over at that one, we have a mic that's set up just for the YouTube. YouTube can hear this mic now that I'm talking on. We'll ask Vendetti about that. I'm not going to know anything. Mark, how can we find it on YouTube? Marin Museum of Bicycling website, and you can pop right to it. So, because you as a firefighter for a long time, do we know the 2 exits that we can leave from here? Exit. Also, does anybody know where the bathrooms are? Yeah, there's a sign that says restrooms right there. Right, so remember, you're not nailed to the seat here. You can get up, right? And if you need to use the bathroom or go get something to drink, that's okay. We can do that. First, we'll go with, we have a presenting sponsor. Right now, our presenting sponsor is Tom Ritchie. There we go. And these are all the rest of the sponsors that help make this happen. So thank you very much to all of them for doing this. If you have a choice, please go to these people that have helped the museum out so much and helped the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame make that happen. And next is going to be a screen that's going to show us the sponsors who created the awards for each year of the inductees. So thank you very much. It's a big deal, and a lot of work goes into it. Thank you, Waterfield. So to make this all happen, this takes a ton of research. Things have changed a tremendous amount for the museum, for the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame over the years. We now have a nominating and selection committee that meets together and goes over and figures out how to curate the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame properly, just like Joe Breeze curates this incredible museum. So we have an order of how we're going to do things, how each person fits in to the adding to the fabric of mountain biking, the ripple effect that they made. So our different members of the nominating selection committee, Steve Blick right up there, please stand up, Steve Blick. Stay standing up. We've got Richard Cunningham. You can see his picture up there on the right, thank you. We have Zap, where's Zap here? We have Glenn Jacobs, you can see right here. We have Anka Morton right here, who's a nominating selection committee. Now, have I forgotten anyone? Is there anybody else left on the nominate? Now, what starts with an H? Can anybody tell me the name? Hans Ray. Now, in this audience, everyone who's a Mountain Bike Hall of Fame inductee, up. All of these people are the ones who have shaped our sport. So this is because of them we have what we have. Face this way, inductees, please. Oh, I guess I should get in the picture. But remember, none of these Hall of Fame inductees couldn't have done it without all their support group. So with Lee, you're just as much an inductee as she is in many different ways. So this Hall of Fame was started in 1988 in Crested Butte. and was brought to Fairfax with the opening of the Marin Museum of Bicycling, which you're in right now, right, in 2015. This year is the 34th anniversary of the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame. This museum and the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame is entirely volunteer run. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. All these things happen because of the tireless efforts of so many people on the museum board and volunteers. That's the only reason this happens. We have a board that really makes the big difference. We have Mark Vendetti way back there, stand up. We have Lena Maria Estrella. Please stand up or stay standing up. We have Connie Breeze there in the shadows. We have Cecile Boddington, who's overseas right now. Another board member is Clay Green, who wasn't able to make it. And I think that's it for the board. Is there anybody left? Oh, Joe Breeze! There's Joe Breeze. Please stand up. Stand up, Joe. Get up. Come up. Up, for God's sakes. So, why we're here, what are we doing in this museum? The mission is to illuminate and celebrate cycling's past, present, and future. Look around. We appreciate all your support and welcome your active participation as we expand. As you can see, we expanded back there. And you can help in any way you want to volunteer. We've had people that have taken over speaker series, everything else, and we have different ways to donate. And do we have this little booklet here? And after the names of all the people that have been inducted, let's see if we can get to that. There's a little page. Oh, we appreciate your support. And what have we learned how to use during the pandemic? How QR codes, yes. So right now you could pull out your phone, you could look at that QR code, and we can break Mark Vendetti's QR code system, which I love anything that goes wrong. I always say because it's on a PC, and I'm more of an Apple guy, so you'll give me pleasure. So please, at your convenience, donate. This is all I will not be able to express how much work goes into this. And there's really been very little industry support. And this place might not be around any longer if we don't get support. We're getting older. We can't keep doing this. Joe, all these board members work 24/7. We get huge paychecks with many zeros on them, but no numbers in front of them. Yes, and no zero. Thank you very much. Again here, let's go to the business on hand. For this presentation, we're doing 3 different years. 2020, we'll go through the inductees. At the end, we'll have a break. You guys can go get beer, use the bathroom, go outside, get some food. We'll be taking pictures with the inductees up here. I may be doing some interviews or Blake or Hans with people over on that camera for the live streamed audience. That'll go during that time. And then we'll do the next class, and then we'll do the next class. I'd like to have a moment of silence for some people we lost. Jeffrey Halbert, Mo Wilson, and also Bobby McMullen. So thank you. So our first inductee for the 2020 class is Davies. Unfortunately, David could not make it. He had a stroke a few months ago. He was trying to rally to make it and kind of fell back in ill health. So for doing this job, he was the most fun to tell that he made it in. He was like a little kid. He was so happy and just went to his core. So what this guy did, he was a longtime instructor for 10 years, worked as a ranger in the forest there in North Wales. The main thing that David did was he made the difference. He's the one that had the vision and was able to show the economics to make trail building happen. He's the guy that did all that. And if it wasn't for him, all these things wouldn't happen. Many different obstacles through politics. Does anybody have to deal with politics and had a difficult time before? Yeah, a lot of difficult times. Red Bull helped out way back when to help make it all happen. Chips, MB UK, you might meet a couple people from Mountain Bike UK magazine, I think. Maybe later? Yeah, I think so. So a lot of people made that place happen. He brought in different people to make in the Forestry Commission and showed that model to work. And what he really showed was, you build something, people will come and the economy will thrive. And not only by doing that, he showed that economic model, and that will work and make something happen for these areas. And for me, the biggest part was talking to Chips about David and just him saying his glory was to be able to turn riders into hard numbers and cost-benefit results that dull, old government officials could not understand. And at that time, there was no other person who was doing that. He took an old land-rich spot with money-poor, ex-mining, industrial logging area and built trails for mountain bikers. They beat a path to this area, and showing that model, that spread everywhere. That's part of the reason Glenn Jacobs is in the Hall of Fame. That inspired so much, and that reached from the UK overseas to Europe and everywhere. And that model he showed, you build it and they will come. That's what David did. How he set it up was, he looked at it as a holistic approach, made it sustainable, was able to have less visual environmental things, was able to manage the conflict, use the existing topography and a minimal footprint, and made it sustainable so it lasted with not a whole lot of work. And here he is setting the tone, showing the trail here that he helped build. And then he also became an MOBE, member of the Order of British Empire in the Queen's Birthday Honors List. And this is part of the history of mountain biking, and this man made a tremendous difference. So thank you. Now, have I talked about the Mountain Bike UK at all? Yes, a little bit. So I'd like to bring up Tim Manley and Steve Behr, and they're going to do their presentation. Come up, 2020 inductees. Not doing any money pipes.
All right.
Right? I don't want animals blowing up in different places.
Am I still? Yeah, okay. I haven't broken the property of the museum. That's really good. Right, where's this photograph? Oh, that. Here we go. Here's our selfies.
So bring it close in. Bring it all in the beard.
In here, in the beard. Right. Hello. We're in Museum of Bicycling. We're really glad to be here. I'm Tim Manley. This is Steve Behr. And we stand before you accused of, we were young once. We're accused that in 1987 we did create a magazine. That close enough, Ovid? Yeah. That is, yes, I like that sound. That's a sherry advertisement. We created a magazine which told the diverse British off-road riders that they were not alone. which they thought they were. And we brought them together and we created an ethos in Britain which produced many champions, and the British mountain bike scene made an impact on the world. I think you can say that. And we think that the magazine was central to that. Everybody tells us so. Do you think that's true, Steve?
I think it is, Tim. The magazine did what the internet would have done, but it hadn't been invented yet, so we had to do it for it.
You will recognize Red Bull's cultured and sophisticated commentator, Rob Warner. Really good friend of the magazine. It was Rob's opinion that he said Mountain Biking UK was British mountain biking for maybe a dozen years back in the day. And it inspired a lot of people. We've got some of the people inspired here. There's a couple of champions there. How many times was Tracy champion? And here we have Hans Ray, who was extremely important in what we did, as you'll see in a minute. Now, this was not a commercial launch. This was a bunch of guys getting together and taking their money out of their pockets and doing it themselves. So I was the editor, and I was also co-owner of our tiny little company. And I was able to do exactly what I damn well liked. And I was at that time, well, I was egotistical. I'm egotistical now. But I was an egotistical comic writer, and what I liked was stunts. I liked things that drew attention to me and drew attention to mountain biking and just made people look and go, my God, what are those silly fools doing there? So we had some heroes. Can we have some heroes? There's Steve doing what Steve damn well liked. But I'm not entirely clear what that is. What was Steve doing there, Hans? No, I'm not. I told you I wouldn't. No, we are now on page 2, Steve. We're all right. So what have we got next? Okay.
So it wasn't just the two of us. We had Chris Turner, who was the commercial director and MD, John Stevenson, the deputy editor, a lot of people would have come into contact with over the years, and Steve Warland, who was the best bike test editor at that time that was possible to get, and the late, great Steve Warland, sadly not with us anymore, but an amazing bike test editor. Plus, after them came these guys. Some of you will have come across them. And then we did all this type of stuff, which is now Tim's chance to talk about. And MBUK was accused of being very silly, Tim. How do you plead?
I plead not very guilty at all. So I think riding bikes in the dirt and the dust and in places where bikes should never ever go is pretty damn silly anyway, and not to be taken very seriously. The important stuff we did very professionally. We tested bikes very well. We sorted out riding spots pretty well. We ran a team for 20 years, international downhill team. That's quite hard work. We put on a huge show in the UK every year for 10 years. So we did all that, but we really wanted to pass on the madness of mountain biking and create heroes and fun and jokes. And our first heroes after the sheep were Hans Ray's disciples, the trials guys. we had some really good trials guys in England, and they could turn off gravity. Have you ever seen these? Well, you must have seen these people perform. And you watch them, you just don't know how they did what they did. It's fascinating stuff. We had Martin Ashton, we had Martin Hawes. Who else is up there, Steve?
Chris Ackrig, there's Danny Holroyd, and then we had the more sort of stunt riders, which were Chris Smith, Grant Fielder, and that's Sam Pilgrim down the bottom. But, you know, these guys needed a forum, a place to be seen, and MBUK kind of provided that place for them to be seen. We'd come across these guys and put them in the mag, and things just led on from there, I guess.
We put them in our bike shows. We had a bike show at the NEC in Birmingham every year, and we had to build every year a bigger pile of dirt for the trials riders and the jumpers to jump. And it's a really strange thing, because as the dirt gets drier, it gets faster and people start breaking their legs. So, yeah, it's a difficult thing. That's why we only did it for 10 years. Well, you're just sitting there and you hear these leg bones going crack, crack, crack. But mountain bike racing in England at that time was also pretty crazy. They were kind of weekend festivals, and you had to ride a 30-mile cross-country, a gnarly downhill, and some trials on the same bike on the same day. And the points added up to who won the thing. It was just a crazy sort of setup. We loved it a lot, and there was a lot of music. And of course, that all came from right here. That came from Marin County, because the racing rules, I think, were written by Charles R. Kelly of, am I right? Yes, that's right, of this parish. And that is what we were all following. Where have we got to now?
So the guys here were very inspirational. It was all about, you know, freedom and having fun and enjoying yourself and throwing yourself down hills. Not too many rules and regulations. And then obviously there were individuals concerned, and we, for some reason, called them the demigods.
The demigods. Charles R. Kelly, Jackie Ferland. That is Joe. That's Joe. Yeah, there's Otis there. Yeah. We've seen you, Otis. Thank you. Yeah. There's Mr. Fisher up there. Tom Ritchie down here. Mike Signard. These guys sort of carried the virus of hippie rebel mountain biking, and they passed them on almost directly through our magazine to the British riders, who were really very susceptible to that sort of thing. Another first of the demigods who were really important to mountain biking UK is Charlie Kelly. We persuaded Charlie to be American editor of MBUK from day one. So he didn't write that many articles, really. Yeah. But what he did write was solid gold, because he'd been through the whole thing for 10 years and worked with everybody who was trying to find a way to get bikes, to get them away from the cops and the concrete and the cars. So at that date, everybody in Britain knew everything there was really worth knowing about mountain bikes. And that was a very good thing for the British industry. Here we have the second demigod. This is Jackie Ferland. You can see. Jackie's here, yes. But Jackie's very famous. She's famous in Britain because firstly, she noticed that we existed, which was kind of nice. And she was the first American professional rider to come to Britain. And she rode the man v horse v bike event, which was, how long was that, Jackie? Was that 50 miles or was that 30 or 25? 35. Yeah. And she rode that first. She was the first rider to beat the runners. She was the first woman rider to beat all the men. She didn't win. She came in second to a horse called Jenny. After that, she brought us wombats, and she went on beating all our best for a very long time. Good God, there's Gary in a phone box. This is our third demigod, Gary Fisher, because, as you know, he has a genius for publicity. Gary knows how to throw fairy dust over a story. And when our magazine was new, he was launching his brand in the UK, and he persuaded his brand manager that publicity was a good thing of all sorts, no matter what it was. So anything I need, no matter how mad it was, the Fisher boys were always there. Hello. Who's that? Do you know who that is? That's Jason McRoy, baby. Yeah. This is Jason McRoy. Now, it's a difficult thing because you're inducting Jason today, and his dad's got COVID, so he can't be here, which is a great shame because those two guys were like a double unit. And yeah, Jim. Jason had a lot going for him. He was good looking. He was really talented. He had all the chords to Stairway to Heaven. But the thing he really had going for him was Jim, who was a good photographer, a really great writer, and a publicist with huge experience. And these guys got a bit bored, I think, one summer, and Jim and Jason came to America to do all the new world events that were here. And one of those was at Mammoth Mountain, where Charlie had pretty much taken repack. Is that right? Charlie's there somewhere. Yeah, it kind of repack outgrew its original place and went up to Mammoth Mountain. And Jason did the thing he had to do, which was to win their fare back to England, basically. But he did enough there when he came home to get a phone call from Ned Overend, and he offered him a place on Team Specialised. So that really energized all these guys. They thought, my God, we can ride for teams. So this is kind of Jason's British contingent of fans and followers, as the sophisticated Rob Warner at the top left, and Tracy Mosley, who was champion in many ways of downhill and also enduro. Steve Peter, of course, serial world champion, World Cup rid. These are the Athertons, and you have never seen so many broken bones in three bodies. You can see Dan, I mean, he's obviously broken completely. Dan is the elder Atherton sibling, and he does the hard ride, but he keeps a low profile, but you can see he's broken everything in his body. Rachel's had a baby, that's good. Surprising, really. She got the bones left to do it. Who else have we got there, Steve?
Well, there's G, obviously, who's always been a little crazy. And these guys came after Warner and Petey and Tracy. This was the next wave, and they totally took the ball and ran with it. And again, inspired the next generation that came on after them. And all these people were featured heavily in the magazines, and we had them as a part of the furniture there, really. And these guys were all inspired by those previous guys to take the baton and run with it. And all that's left to say is thank you very much for inducting us, if that's what you're going to do. Otis?
You're still in.
Thanks, Otis.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you. And just to prove that we actually do ride bikes occasionally.
Nice. Well done. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a plan. We'll be okay. We're doing them all together. Wait, are you causing trouble, Hans? Shush. Yeah, don't feed off of Hans. That's not going to be a good move. So our next inductee for the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame is Stan Koziatek. So how many people here ride tubeless tires? Yes, a lot of people. So Stan was not a big cyclist at all. He ended up kind of taking, he was into race cars, into go-karts, everything else, but he did start riding some bicycles to get in shape for skiing. And he would get frustrated when he got flats. Now, there were other companies that did do some different no-tubes things, but they just didn't work very well. So he just kept trying different ways to make this work. And by doing that, and by then starting his company, Stan No Tubes, but before that, before he got to start the company, he put Thomas Frischnet on his system, and Frigi killed it. You know, so he had racers that he brought together to help make it happen. Allison Dunlap rode his system, and they both of them, this system works. And of course, like anything else, it keeps getting improved and improved, but we're riding lower pressures. When we were doing repack on those crummy Carlisle tires, it had 45 pounds in it. I weigh like 185 pounds. Today I rode like 20 pounds of pressure in my rear wheel and like 18 in the front wheel. So that was because of Stan. Stan was unable to make it. He's soon may be getting a knee replacement and a hip replacement. Basically, he's now sold the company. He's very happy when he rides on his riding mower. He owns a golf course, and he likes to play golf, but he's kind of used the clubs a little bit. But he's a very interesting character, and we have a lot to thank him for. Thank you, Stan. Our next inductee. Our previous inductees talked a lot about Jason McRoy. For us here, the Beatles were kind of the beginning of the British invasion for America and for the whole world. Jason McRoy was the beginning of the British invasion of mountain bikes. So he made that happen. So his father, James, I had a lot of talks with him. We put together a nice presentation, did a fantastic job. He got COVID right before he came over. So he recorded a very nice speech for him. We'll play his induction speech and his slides, and if you don't know about Jason, you'll learn a lot about Jason.
Men's finalist Jason McRoy of the UK and Miles Rockwell of the United States, a couple of tired guys with 2 more races to win this thing.
What do you attribute your success to today?
I think fitness is a big factor in it. I can handle bike as almost as good as anyone, I think. But my fitness seems to be up on one of the guys I've raced against. So I've had a lot of time to make up. If I've made any mistakes in the corners, I can make them straight.
Miles Rockwell on the right, an established star, one of the best downhillers in the world. Second fastest qualifier behind his teammate Jimmy Deaton, who's out of the competition. But who is this Jason McRoy character? He's put a lot of bike riders in the bleachers and goes to the final against Miles Rockwell.
The 2 fastest guys. These guys are awesome.
Rockwell has opened a big lead on Jason McRoy going into that soft left-hand turn, but McRoy has said he's confident in his ability to pedal up to the leaders, and sure enough, he closes the gap on the quick cornering Miles Rockwell.
Miles wants to take up as much of the track as possible so he doesn't give McRoy a line.
Another look, both guys with their feet out, quickly disengaging out of those step-in. Whoa! Miles Rockwell with a tank slapper there, but he held it up.
He did a great job of saving it. Now look at McRoy. He comes around. I haven't seen anybody pass there all day.
Great pass, taking advantage of an opportunity. Now Jason McRoy with the advantage. Rockwell's almost in the fence. Goes through the mud. McRoy's looking over the wrong shoulder. Maybe he thought Rockwell had crashed. And look at the time difference, 16/100ths of a second. She can take a front row seat because coming up next, the men's final.
What do you have to do to win it?
Go faster than Miles. I've got to keep him inside. I can't let him get away from me. I let him get away too much last time. I had to work very hard to try and get it back.
A 16/100th of a second advantage McRoy has over this man, Miles Rockwell. The men's final is the Englishman versus the American, and McRoy with just an eye blink of an advantage from that first run. So Miles Rockwell has got his work cut out for him. He's got to try to find 16/100ths of a second or more somewhere on this 5-minute race course.
The 10th time down the hill for both these guys. They've got to be feeling it in their legs and in their arms.
A little bit like the final round of a heavyweight prize fight. These guys are arm weary, actually leg weary, probably bone weary from head to foot. McRoy gets the advantage and holds on to the lead. He's got to try to control this race. On the other hand, Miles Rockwell has to look for an opportunity on one of the many turns on this race course. Now, no one has been able to pass on the bottom of the course except Jason McRoy. He did it to Rockwell last time right here.
He's going to have to use that sprint to tighten it up if he's going to win.
Last corner, and Rockwell has got his leg out close to the fence once again, but it looks like Miles Rockwell has got the win, but is it by enough? Yes, 33/100ths of a second. He has turned the deficit around, and by 17/100ths is the Eliminator champion.
You said you were having some problems shifting. Did you miss a gear in there somewhere?
Yeah, I think my gears got clogged up a little bit with dust, and I shifted going into the last corner, and I moved down and jumped about 2 on the block. I was in too big a gear to come off the finish, so I thought I might be able to, keep the deficit down, but he got me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am extremely honoured to be accepting the Hall of Fame induction on behalf of my son, Jason McRoy. I am truly grateful for the recognition he is being given for his contribution to mountain biking. I know he would have been thrilled to have joined the ranks of such a prestigious group. Jason faced many challenges on his way here, but each one of them has only strengthened him to make him the person he was, a thorough professional who was driven to achieve, someone who set his eyes on a goal and did not lose sight of it until it was achieved. Unfortunately, he was taken before his time, but not before he inspired a generation of mountain bikers to follow his lead and compete at the very highest level in the world of mountain biking. Having the honour of being inducted into the Hall of Fame would not have been possible without the inspiration and support that he received on his brief but eventful journey. In particular, I would like to thank, on his behalf, some of those who made it all possible. Otis Guy, your support and encouragement throughout this process has been constant and much appreciated. 2 of Jason's fellow inductees, Tim Manley and Steve Behr, provided a platform for Jason to show his talents and ultimately inspire riders to greater things. Steve Pete was a great friend before and after Jason's passing. Brad Richards, who was instrumental in helping Jason secure his first ever sponsorship deal, and all of his fellow contestants, from John Tomac, Dave Cullinan, Miles Rockwell, to Ned Overend, and all of the other great riders, too numerous to mention, most of whom I have met and socialised with in the early days of mountain biking as we travelled the world together. Special thanks go to his mum Rose, who backed all of our crazy plans to take on the world's best riders. I sincerely thank each and every one of you for your part in making this induction a reality. The short but eventful life of Jason McRoy ended tragically on August the 24th, 1995, when his Harley-Davidson motorbike was in collision with a truck at Woodhead Pass on the A628 in Derbyshire. Jason was more than a son to me. He was my best mate. He was my hero. When he died, a part of me died with him. But a part of Jason lives on in me, and it is his inspirational life that has given me the strength to carry on. On Friday, November the 26th, 1971, at 8:10 p.m, Jason was born in the Luton and Dunstable Hospital in Bedfordshire. The fact that he was born at all is quite remarkable, as the doctors attending his mum Rose had recommended terminating the pregnancy at an early stage, as it presented a threat to the mother's life. Jason was a sickly child, prone to catching cold, and it was during a routine visit to the doctors that a heart defect, a hole in his heart, was discovered. His early school days were unremarkable, but his health checks revealed that the hole in his heart was starting to close, and so we encouraged him to take up more physical activities. Things changed in middle school when he discovered the joys of cycling. Jace became obsessed with training, riding, weightlifting, and devouring every fact on BMX riders worldwide, and he began to compete with some success in the sport. A serious accident on the BMX track took him out of the sport for some time, until he undertook some ferocious leg workouts in the gym to compensate for his damaged ligaments, and, against doctors' advice, bought his first mountain bike, a specialised rockhopper. He entered his first downhill race at Rothbury and had his first taste of mountain bike competition and success at the age of 17. He entered as many races as possible, turning in increasingly better performances, culminating in his win at the Bomb MC event, the unofficial British Championship. His determination and manner off the bike won him many admirers and secured his first sponsorship deal. His results in 1991 led to him being selected for the British downhill squad to compete in the Worlds at Il Choco. 1991 was also the year that he met Sophie, who was to remain his true love until he died. 1992 saw him riding for Team MBUK, where he defied team rules by travelling to Europe to compete in international events instead of riding the domestic circuit. He was once again selected for the GB team, this time in Bromont, Canada. Despite his 10th in the world ranking, Jace was unable to pick up a decent sponsorship deal for 93. We both decided to go for it and quit our jobs, pulling our resources in order to hit the newly inaugurated Grundy World Cup downhill in a big way. Securing a bike and bit steel from a local bike shop, we hit the road rather than the international airways. The big gamble was competing in the States. It was a 3-week tour in the US, and we barely had funds to cover our expenses, so if we had to buy parts... First stop in the US was Vale, the site of the 94 Worlds. He didn't win, but was the fastest through the speed trap, earning him his prized tag watch. A bit of telesales persuasion by his mum had got him an entry for the Eliminator in California, and that was our next stop. It was there that he earned his big break, riding down the infamous kamikaze course in his skin suit against body armour-clad riders. His mechanical backup was 1 spare tyre and 2 inner tubes carried by Rory Hitchens at the bottom of the course. The night before the Eliminator, I had to go begging to the GT truck for a rear triangle for Jason's RTS, as the one on the bike had cracked under the strain of the season's racing. We sat on the floor of the apartment that night, with some tools borrowed from the guys downstairs, rebuilding the bike for the next day's race. His second place in the Eliminator did 2 things. It gave us enough money to go to the next round of the Grundigs in New York. The GT finally gave up the ghost at Hunter Mountain in New York, when the top tube parted company from the rest of the bike, but he still managed a 7th place. Jason wrapped up his season by grabbing his first national downhill title. His first pro year was with Specialized USA in '94, with its highlight being his retention of his national jersey. 1995 started disastrously. He slipped on a really wet course and dislocated his thumb, and in the following race he crashed and broke his wrist, which effectively took him out of the first two Grundig downhills. Ever the optimist, he realised that he could still ride his road bike without damaging his wrist. So he took up track racing at the Manchester Velodrome to maintain his fitness. His results were impressive, and the GP coach, Doug Daly, began to take an interest. The upshot of this was that Jason was shortlisted as a possible Olympic track rider for Atlanta. All he really needed was his raw power and tactics refining, and there was a good chance he would be riding for his country in a different discipline to mountain biking in '96. That was until that fateful night in August 1995, when the whole world changed forever for us. A month after Jason's passing, I smuggled 2 film canisters containing Jason's ashes to the Worlds in Germany, where he became the first and last rider to get 2 runs down the downhill in the World Championship final, the first on Rob Warner's bike and the second on Steve Peat's. The reaction to Jason's death from the public was amazing. In those pre-social media days, we were overwhelmed with letters of how Jason's life had inspired them to try harder, to achieve more, and these comments and letters continue to arrive to this day. One fan even named his son McRoy. To hear how Jason's life had such an impact on other folks' lives really made us feel proud, and usually choked with emotion. His mum and I have maintained a memorial at the crash site since the accident, and we continue to visit and improve the site as much as we can. It even has a listing on Google. In February 2010, Jason was inducted into the inaugural British Cycling Hall of Fame, which was set up to recognise outstanding individuals from across the whole country. Not a day goes by that we don't think of Jason, and that is why, with immense pleasure and humility, I am honoured to receive the induction to the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame on his behalf. Thank you.
That is the end of our 2020 inductees. 2020 inductees, please come up and receive your trophies. This is a time for you guys to take pictures. 2020 inductees, please come on up. This is for Tim. He's slower, I think. This is yours, Steve. There we go. There we go. I will be representing Robin and Stan, the 2020 inductees. So this is the time you're welcome to take a break, go back, get some food, some drinks, use the bathroom. We're going to reconvene in about 10 to 15 minutes. If you want to go up and talk to the inductees or take pictures, this is the time. Thank you.
Hello, sports fans.
Maybe you're in, but there's like stuff over here.
Steve Blick reporting in here.
It has to be green, I thought.
It's green.
Oh.
Hi, everybody. This is my hero, my friend, Lee Donovan. Lee, we're at the Hall of Fame in Marin County. What does that mean to you to be here tonight?
Well, considering I have been mountain biking for exactly just a few months over 30 years, and I have never been to the birthplace of mountain biking, it means coming home. You know, like I finally have come to a place where I get to see where the gift of my life started for like the whole world. And, you know, I'm seeing a bunch of friends be inducted this evening, seeing friends that have been inducted but I haven't seen for a long time. I don't know, just even like I was saying today, just having a slow day, you know, just it's a gift. Today is a gift.
It really is. And we have a lot of special people here tonight. And we just saw a few of our friends go in, and there's a long list, but Jason McRoy, he's someone that came over. He was special. It gives me tingles to say his name. But do you have a story of a time that when you met Jason and what it meant to you to see him arrive in America?
It's funny tonight, just like hearing Jim talking and introducing, Jason. And I got to know Jim so well after Jason passed because he was on the circuit for many years, capturing our memories. Jason was honestly so good looking that he was somebody that intimidated me to even build a relationship with. But one thing I do remember is just always being excited to watch him ride his bike because he had so much energy on his bike, and you could tell that he truly loved his bike. And so when he passed, that was the year I actually won the world championship. So I was at that race that the ashes were spread at, and it's so that was such there were so many memories that happened for me at that Kurzarch World Championships in Germany in '95, and I felt like I always felt a little robbed that I never got to know Jason, but I always felt like the gift was knowing Jim, and Jim is such an amazing person, and I know that Jason lives on through a lot of us through Jim. And through the lovely memories that he shared not only tonight, but that he continues to share on Facebook and connecting us still with stories about Jason that we never heard. So yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I had my own experience with Jason actually, where it was during that same time. I wasn't on the podium with you guys, but I was actually in the parking lot, parked right next to them actually. Oh. So we heard the stories about begging for bike parts, getting things. I was parked with a couple other riders right next to them, and what I remember the most is that there's this other British guy named Steve Behr, and he was cool.
Yeah.
And but Jason what he had is like a really positive mindset.
Yeah.
And there was stress to get a bike going, but they're just really peaceful people, and yeah, I feel robbed that I didn't get to know him more, but I was there to see these new guys coming over. They weren't American-speaking people, but they had a cool accent, and they had some charisma that made you want to hang out with them a little bit. Next thing you know, they showed up on a factory team, and then next thing you know, we're reading the news that we lost them. But I'm happy that at least we had a chance to share their time, and then. Speaking of British people, a couple other Brits, special Brits, Steve Behr, Tim Manley.
Yeah.
Do you have a special time? I bet you've been on the other end of the camera with them. Is there a a shoot or experience that you have that is memorable that you've done with them, with maybe someone like Cully or another rider? Is there something you've done?
Mountain Bike UK, like that was always something that you would be like, oh my God, that's the most amazing magazine out there, right? So I was, if I'm being honest, I was not somebody that looked at magazines a lot because I didn't want to see a picture of me looking bad, or I didn't want to read something bad about myself. I was always, especially as a new athlete in those early eras of the 90s, I always was like more self-conscious, and I just was nervous to always see what people would say about me. It's funny now, oh my God, the internet would ruin me. I would probably have a full-on breakdown. People are so mean. But I think, Steve, actually, we really have had a lot of experience with Steve. And one year they came over and they did a story on me, and he came over to the house when I was living in San Clemente at the time. He's so awesome. And as an athlete, we definitely had a lot of interactions with the photographers. Like, I would say we were always good friends with them, just like even today's world, you see a lot of the photographers and they have these amazing relationships. We did as well, but we were like all very similar ages, it seemed like, but those guys were like professionals. And so as an athlete, I always remember when I would be around like Steve or anyone that was really in the media, like a Zap or anyone, I would always try and be on my best behavior. And I do remember when Steve came over to our house, I think he was like taking a photo of me in like my bedroom or something. And I remember it being like not appropriate. And it was probably more on my end.
We're going to start in about 3 minutes, everyone.
And I always will remember, like, from then on, we were always, like, connected. And we'd see each other at the races. And I honestly can't pinpoint what it was. But, and it wasn't, like, super inappropriate. But at the time, I just remember feeling like I totally crossed the line right there. And, but I have to say, I think after, when you share moments sometimes like that, it either connects you or it disconnects you. And I really feel like with Steve and I, we always shared like the love and the humor and the hard work of what it meant to be a professional on the mountain bike circuit. And to see him and Tim get inducted tonight, it's an honor to be here. And I'm glad we get to share that with other people that are watching. And it's great to be here with you too, Black. Yeah.
Thanks. Well, you've been inspiration. You've made a lot of people fall in love with their sport. So, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, back to the show. Test. 1, 2.
You in the shot even, Blake? I don't see you. Where's Big D? There we go. We need Big D to.
Big D. Do you have a Big D story to tell? Tell me about our good friend Derek Westerlund. Let's get. We have our executive producer courtside, remote in the Batcave somewhere.
Well, Big D is just another one that has been inducted in the Hall of Fame for his achievements, mainly his filmmaking, and he's not here tonight, but he's one of the pros, and he still works on a lot of cool projects. He's actually doing a film about the history of free ride right now. Nothing is for free, so keep your eyes open next year. But It's
We're done. Back
it's
up.
pretty cool. So anyway, we got to go live now back to the inductions here with Otis Guy, our main guy.
Nobody
All right,
cares.
this will
Nobody
be
cares.
continued, and we'll catch you on the next break.
Next break.
The wine.
All right, All right, everyone. Welcome to our first inductee of the 2021 class, Rachel Atherton. So Rachel's the youngest sibling of the Atherton family that's done so much for mountain biking, especially in the UK, and you're going to hear all about her. Rachel was not able to make it. She has a new addition to the family, and so it was just too much for her to make it over here. She really appreciates the honor and is going to be hopefully watching it. It's all good. Oops. There we go. Perfect. So, Rachel, basically a one-woman recruitment for downhill mountain biking, especially in Britain. She's a very good example of talking about how when we're honoring one person, we're honoring a few people at the same time. And this is a big talk upon the nomination selection committee. And Rachel, in some senses more than some of the other inductees, really representing her family and what her family have done for mountain biking. Many different awards from all her accomplishments. She was Sunday Times Young Sportswoman of the Year, all kinds of stuff. And what she really did was her accomplishments and the way she acted and the way she carried herself really brought so much mountain biking to the forefront of millions of sports fans. So, as the youngest sibling, who she's going to be following are her brothers. They're putting her with her pet rabbit in a basket. She's doing village dirt jumps, starts racing BMX, as many different people here. They've gone to the Hall of Fame, started in BMX. Then she switched to mountain bike at age 11 on a bike her dad built from an old BMX frame. As we know with different family things and the youngest sibling, they're getting stuff cobbed together with lots of other stuff, and you're going to have to make it work. And she made it work because she got to the World Cup top step in 2004, getting her first World Cup, and then she got her first Elite World Cup gold in 2006. Now, this isn't such a bad resume, is it? 39 World Cups, 75 World Cup podiums, 6 World Championship titles, 6 overall series titles, 10 national titles. So she's killing it. She's just rolling fast and just doing a fantastic job, and again, with the Atherton family. Also, she's there's lots of legendary stories of her different injuries and how she's like trying to relocate things on the race course. Just take it that she's like, you can drop her off a cliff and she'll bounce. Maybe she'll have a little bit of a cracked bone, but she keeps going. Viral illnesses, fractured clavicle, ruptured Achilles tendon in 2009 at Leggett. But in the end, she's come back and she's still looking fast in 2022 after having a child. And she's accomplished something unbelievable. She had a perfect season in 2016. She won every UCI World Downhill World Cup, and she got the title. 14 consecutive victories. How many things can go wrong in a downhill mountain bike race? 14 consecutive, just incredible. She does understand that she's not just one person, it's part of a family, it's part of that Atherton family that made this all happen. You know, she's following her brothers, going now, and she really tries to work with downhill junior women, has put together teams, so she's also like any of the inductees. You know, it's not about them, it's about what they do and how they're helping other people out. And Rachel's done a phenomenal job for that. And again here, that's what she's doing all the time, and this little one is the reason that she's not here. And so she's come back after Arna and placed 6th in her first World Cup in 2 years, and then took care of her little baby girl in the pits. Again here, so she just looks at all the things that she can do, mentor other young riders, and keep doing great design and groundbreaking stuff with the Atherton family. So again here, she says thanks to all of you. So our next inductee is Darren Berrecloth. Another incredible free rider and so much more. Come on over.
Thanks, bud. I'll, if you guys know who I am, Darren Berrecloth, and got a little video for you. Otis, do you want to play the video now or do you want to play it after?
I don't do anything. Mark does everything. Mark will play the video.
All right. Shall we play the video now?
Yes.
All right.
He knows.
Let it rip.
You know, the year Darren Berrecloth came to the Rampage, so he builds this little dirt jump in the middle of the course, and we're like, this has no place here. He discovered quite quickly that he could do stuff on the mountain bike that you're not going to do on a BMX bike.
You know, I want to hit the mountains. Get out there and enjoy those outdoor spaces and big mountain lines. And
Claw was like the first guy to bring tricks in.
Crankworks 2005. He spins the big old.
Claw had a lot to do with you build your own stuff and you work your ass off and go build everything, and then you ride it and you just sweat it out like you have a hard-working manual labor job.
There was already guys like Darren Berrecloth doing tricks that would be in a winning slopestyle run, and they were already doing it in like big mountain scenarios.
thinking back on my near 20 years of being a professional biker and how many amazing experiences I've had and how many crazy places I've ridden my bike and competitions, and yeah, man, it's been an amazing ride.
All right. Great. Great to see all your beautiful faces out here, out and about this evening. Couple words, I'll keep it short and sweet. Couple words, I'll keep it short and sweet. Like so many of us, I fell in love with two wheels at an early age. Wind in your hair, your buddies at your side, nothing but freedom on the horizon. The knowledge of the only rules that apply are the ones you place upon yourself. Bikes for me was a salvation, and it was a passion that turned into a dream. And that dream, like my fellow inductees, the dream became a reality. That dream could not have been possible without the help of so many in my career. I've been fortunate to have many mentors in my years. My story on two wheels really started at an early age, where my first time getting airborne was a piece of plywood propped up by a few pieces of firewood. Very safe. That jump at the end of the driveway, coupled with my neighborhood friends, filled with laughter and cheering, led to my father always looking for his shovels, as they were always down at the dirt jumps down the street. Like so many of my fellow dirt jumpers. Very similar story. Those were the beginnings of the rest of my life on two wheels. Since then, it's been a heck of an adventure. My biggest dream was to take tricks into the big mountains. And like the video you've seen, it was events like the Red Bull Rampage that really gave guys like myself a true avenue to show the world what we were doing in the mountains and bring it to the masses. All in all, I'm honored to receive this award. It means a lot to guys like myself and so many of my other inductees. Congrats to you all, by the way. I'm honored to receive this induction for changing the game in my sport of freeride. Such a niche little thing that we love to do. And very excited to see all my homies carry the torch and take it to a whole new level. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just tune into any Rampage. It's coming up in 2 weeks. There's loads of people I'd like to thank. My family, my girls, all of my friends and fans. Without all of you, I would have not have been successful, period. In this life, if you want to be successful in anything, you need to surround yourself with successful people. I've been very fortunate to have exactly that. From my earliest mentor, Jay Miron, to the guy that gave me my first shot on the big screen, Bjorn Inga. And to all the amazing, talented photographers like Sterling, Highlands, Jorgensen, Gibby, that put up with my shit while traveling the globe in search of the sickest terrain to jump off of and do silly tricks. To Freeride and the Anthill crew for chasing me around the deserts and far-flung lands and making me look better than I am on the big screen. And anyone else I've forgotten, mad love to all those who helped create this amazing museum and the Hall of Fame. What you guys have done is truly inspiring, and I know it's a labor of love, so mad props to all of you. It's awesome. And yeah, love you all, and thanks for this amazing honor.
Well done, man. Thank you. It's an honor. I'd like to introduce our next inductee, Darren Berrecloth. Has anybody heard of Pink Bike before? Has anybody heard of Trailforks before? Well, let's bring up Darren. He's going to tell us all about it.
Yeah, I was going to have Derek Westerland do a highlight reel of me, but it was just me in the basement in my underwear programming on a computer. But, you know, when I got word that I was being inducted into this place, you know, being a 6'5", 250-pound mountain bike rider, I kind of pretty sure I knew why I got inducted, and you know that was for breaking a lot of bike parts in the '90s, and you know with all my warranty claims, making the mountain bike industry make stronger products. But no, it's for the work that I did on Pink Bike and Trailforks. You know, Pink Bike and Trailforks obviously are pretty big companies now, but they had pretty humble starts. You know, I'm gonna just talk about not what, you know, what features these things have now, but kind of the humble beginnings. How did it all start? Like, where did it begin? And mention some of the people that really put the, you know, make this stuff happen. I'm kind of just like the representative here. But first, you know, the obligatory first bike. This is me in probably like 1977, back in Poland. I was born in Poland and grew up there. And you know, for a kid, like a bike is an object of freedom, right? It's your first time you get to get away from your house, go on some new adventures. And actually, I remember one of my first adventures, probably at this age. Me and my buddy were riding along on the street, and you know, we discovered that you could take your hands off the handlebars, right, and start coasting. It's like, this is awesome. And we got pulled over by the cops. And you know, we were like 7 years old or something like that. So what they did is they give us a stern talking, and they removed our valve stems, flattened our tires, and made us walk home like, I don't know, miles. So, you know, yeah, exactly, right? You think you have it bad in North America. Try living in, you know, communist Poland. And then, you know, my parents moved to Canada when I was about 10 years old, and I grew up in Canada, and I didn't really ride mountain bikes when I was kind of young. Mostly used the bicycle for transportation, but not until after college I got my first job, and my coworkers there were into mountain biking. And so they said, hey, Radek, you got to get yourself a mountain bike. You know, you can go ride cross country with us. And I said, you know, I'll go and I'll, you know, go to Walmart, I'll get myself a $100 bike and we'll go ride. And they're like, no, you gotta spend like $2,000, right? And I was like, you gotta be kidding me, you know, I'm spending $2,000 on a mountain bike. But I did. And my very first bike, mountain bike, was the Marin Nail Trail, which is, interestingly enough, just down the road, right? That was the company. And, you know, this bike sort of started my mountain biking journey. You know, I did first dirt, just cross-country riding, then trails, then Hans, trials, buddy, right? Did some trials. And, you know, part of that journey of mountain biking is riding with your friends on road trips. So back in Calgary, you know, we had a great crew of guys and girls that we went all over the place. We went different cities, different regions to ride. And, you know, back in those days, when you went to a new place to ride, you know, you got there and you said, like, where are the trails? So you went to a bike shop and, you know, this was trail maps in the 90s. Some mountain biker or a guy at the bike shop would draw you a little, you know, treasure trail, and you'd go ride these trails. And it was on one of these trips, my buddy Mike Blarowski and I, we were in Roslyn, BC, and we're riding one of these, following one of these maps, and we thought, you know what, it'd be so cool if there was like a website that, you know, had pictures of trails, you know, trail name, trail city, right, where the trail is found, and kind of the area, and you could browse all these places and decide where you want to ride. You know, do I want to ride this trail? Do I not want to ride this trail? And that was kind of the idea for Pink Bike originally, you know. But, you know, so being a hardware engineer at the time, I thought I could program this type of website when it was just photos of trails, because back then there was no Google Maps. This is like 1997. It was just something simple like this, a website with photos and names of trails. But before that, we need a cool name. So, why the name? How did Pink Bike come to be? Well, it had to do a lot with beer. We had a brainstorming session, and my whole crew in Calgary, right? We thought we were pretty hardcore. We were jumping off roofs at the time, riding. Not like Darren. We were kind of like the B team, right? but we thought we were pretty hardcore. So we wanted like a hard-hitting name, right? And like extremebiking.com or something really, really, really gnarly. And one of these nights, after a lot of beers, in frustration that a lot of the names we came up with, the domains were already taken. One of my buddies said, "You know what? Screw this. Let's just make a website for like Lycra wearing XC riders that jump off curbs, and we'll call it pinkbike.com." And I got a little bit of a laugh, but that night we never found any good names. But the next day at work, I was sitting there and I was like, in the fog of my hangover, the one name that sort of popped into my head was just the dumbest name. Pink Bike, right? Like, what a dumb name, right? And so I checked on the website or on the computer, and the domain was available. So I was like, all right, we're gonna be pinkbike.com. It'll be like the opposite of what we want to be doing. So I made a basic website probably in like 1998, and in those days there was like no cloud, no WordPress or anything like that. It was, you had to figure this stuff out all on your own. You had to have servers and like how do you host it and stuff like that. And at first the website was just photos of my friends riding. We'd go on a ride. I'd put our photos up on the website. And as we were riding and meeting people on the trail, we'd tell them, hey, you should check out our website, pinkbike.com. And over time, people started actually emailing me photos. And I'd get this email, and they said, hey, we saw your photos of trails on the web. Here's my photo. Can you add me to your website? And there was no like automation back then. I literally had to like recode the HTML and add them to the website. And that kind of went on for kind of a few years. And the other thing that we did at the very beginning, me and my friends that were jumping off roofs and doing silly stuff, we started like videotaping ourselves and making some of the first videos that were on the internet of mountain biking. Because back then, like if you wanted to see somebody do some cool stuff, you had to buy a VHS tape of New World Disorder. And like, yeah, some people could do that, but across the world, right, that wasn't the case, right? You can, people in different parts of the world didn't have access to that, but they did have access to the internet. And, they started to watch our videos and replicate that. And I still remember, at one point, we'd always see photos on our website of like, riding in BC, trail bridges and jumps in BC, but then suddenly we'd get photos from like Oregon, people jumping off skinnies, and then like Brazil and Germany. And so like the internet kept spreading this, I think, faster than like maybe magazines or VHS tapes. So then around 2004, this went on, this has been going on for like 7 years, and we're just kind of doing it for shits and giggles. I had a full-time engineering job, and it was kind of people that were working on this with me, they're sort of lost interest, and we were kind of thinking about mothballing Pink Bike and moving on. People have different lives and want to do different things, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to quit my jobs and I want to give this a try. And back then, MTBR, Bike Mag, all these places were kind of the cool things, and I thought, well, I wonder if we could be something like that. And Tyler Main was the original employee number one. And him and I, we were just living in Chilliwack and hustling, trying to create news and content and figure things out. And we'd go to Interbike and post up photos and videos. And at the time, we tried to survive by selling T-shirts. And the T-shirts that we made were kind of stuff that that happened to us, right? So one time, my friend crashed, and suddenly, so we made this dumb shirt, right? Rider may fall without warning. Then, then another time, it was like the free ride scene was happening, so we made this shirt, support your local free rider. And we were a bunch of knuckleheads back then, and I remember this one time we got the new Rocky Mountain RM7, right, which is like a bike with 7 inches of rear travel, and so we had I love 7 inches in the rear, right? They're just jokes. but that went on for years again, and not until 2008, more and more people were starting to come to our website, but and we could hire a couple more people. So some of the first hires were Mike Levy. He was just the kid working in the bike shop down the road, and now he's kind of one of the top technical editors out there. Same with Jordan Holmes there. He was doing a bunch of video and photos with us, and then my brother Carl had just finished university, and he did a major in computer science and microbiology, and I was like, hey, come see if you can sell advertising on a website. And to this day, it's his first and only job. And Carl and I at that time, we started writing some more software. We made the news section. We added the famous user comments, the forum, and the buy and sell, which is a classified section. And oddly enough, the buy and sell, this thing we wrote in a very short amount of time, it became one of the most popular things on Pink Bike. So many users used it. So many users bought their first bike on that, on the buy and sell. And it was kind of, even to this day, it's kind of frustrating because Pink Bike's kind of a bigger deal, and they'll have a big booth somewhere, and you have all these editors that are doing all these fantastic things, and people come up and say, oh, Pink Bike, oh, you're the buy and sell website. And so, but at the time, around the 2008, print was kind of king, right? We went to different companies and we're like, hey, do you want to advertise on our website? And they're like, yeah, you're on crack. We advertise in magazines, right? And, but, shout out to our first advertiser ever, Derek Lee, Calgary Cycle, big Santa Cruz dealer back in the day. And still one of the biggest Calgary guys for mountain biking. He was our first advertiser. And, as things are on, our audience grew, and we had to figure out how to be efficient. And then in 2010, the internet became cool, right? Companies finally wanted to reach our audience. And, in the beginning, Pink Bike was kind of a bunch of kids, right? 17-year-old kids doing dumb stuff. But that was in 1997. 13 years later, those 20-year-old kids are now 30-year-old parents and basically consumers. And they stayed on our website, so companies wanted to reach them, right? And we started to get more employees. Ben Thomas came on, Julian Coffey, Alan Gold, Casimir, Bartek Catalan, and a big move for us was, Carl convinced Richard Cunningham to come and work for us. And Richard, when he retired, he said, thanks for the ride on the last mountain bike pirate ship, referring to Pink Bike. But, you know, Richard came on and basically helped a bunch of knuckleheads like us that were just sort of doing things for shits and giggles to try to be real journalists, cover things properly, and that led to, you know, photographers like Sterl, Highlands Margus to work with us, and things started to become bigger and better. In 2015, we moved to Squamish, which was kind of like the mecca of mountain biking in BC. You know, we got a real office, 60 employees, more people came on board. It's kind of the next crop, Brian Park, Alan Crisp, Sarah, and just countless more. And we were doing, you know, better journalism, better content, field tests, there's like TV shows, and by all intents and purposes at this point, kind of Pink Bike had made it, right? Like, when you're getting a shuttle ride in a chopper with your brand on it, you're good to go. But, you know, one thing was missing. You know, Pink Bike wasn't supposed to be a media company, right? It was about the trails. And so, you know, what about the trail map? And I'll kind of back up around 2012 or something like that, when, you know, Pink Bike was already on its way. I thought the technology's finally here. You know, Google Maps was available. People had smartphones. So it was time to make an actual trail database. So as I was starting to think about that, I went for a ride with my buddy Trevor May, who was working on kind of a local Vancouver trail database called Trailforks. And, you know, we had some of the same ideas and goals for what would it be like if we kind of made a worldwide trail database. But, you know, more importantly, both Trevor up top and me down here, we liked riding skinny bridges high up in the air. And we joke sometimes, we're like, we only made Trailforks so we could find out where all the skinny bridges were and ride them. And so we got together, and Trevor joined Pink Bike, and we basically scrapped what he had at the time, and we started to rebuild everything on kind of the Pink Bike framework. And so this started to become Trailforks. And before Trailforks, there was already trail management systems, or not management systems, but trail databases. Like IMBA had one, and you know, MTBR had a little database, Bike Mag had a database, but a lot of that stuff we thought was kind of done wrong. You know, on one hand, it was either there a centralized database where you'd have, say, one company in, say, Colorado saying, we're going to decide what all the trails are in all over the world, and we're going to control it all, and that's how we're going to do it. But on the other hand, you had kind of the user gen system, which was like just an open system where people just upload whatever they want, and you had like 10 different versions of the same trail, a bunch of GPS tracks that was just a bunch of crap. So we thought, we got to do it a different way. And so we took this idea of a trail management system first, where we built the website first that allowed different regions and different associations to manage their own little areas. So that was kind of like the differentiator. So instead of us trying to decide, hey, we want to decide what the trails are like in Kentucky or what rating they should have. No, that association gets to manage it on our network. And to kind of give you an idea, like, most of you are probably familiar with the app, which is kind of the window into this. It took 5 or 6 years to build this. It took like 6 months to build the app. So, you know, this is the trail management is really the jewel of what makes Trailforks work. And Trailforks was a very small team to pull this off, right? Like, this is it right there. Trevor May, Todd Newmarker, me, Mark Holloway, and Ben. You know, these guys built everything from the servers, the programming, the app, the design, the ideas, usability, production. You know, it took 10 years, right? And it's a massive piece of infrastructure, and it wasn't all like, you know, rainbows. there was a lot of pushback, right? People kind of had thought that nobody's ever going to ride with a phone with them. Associations were basically kind of, didn't want to work with this system. They thought, it was dumb. And the one story, we had one group of people. So you know how you have a trail, right? It has a shape, right? So they were so mad with Trailforks that they made trails in the shape of a penis. And they would submit these trails with the words, F off. And so with all this stuff, it just took perseverance to get through this stuff, to finally build it big enough where people started to realize, hey, this makes sense, this is cool, this is useful. And Pink Bike was just massive, right? Like, this is a map of real-time page views. And on some days, this would get to 400 page views per second throughout, like, half the day. From all over the world, right? Like, each one of those explosions is somebody going, load a page, load a page. There's millions of users per month. I think Trailforks now has like almost 1 million kilometers of trail, 500,000 trails in 123 countries, and millions of downloads. And this is actually what Trailforks and Pink Bike looks like. So because we built this stuff way back in the day, there was no cloud or any of that stuff. We build our own servers. We maintain all our stuff, and we still do. So, all the data and photos and videos and comments that you've ever seen on Pink Bike all live on these machines, and they're just down the road in San Jose. So, this was the original logo and tagline of Pink Bike, share the ride. But kind of really what it means is share and spread the love of mountain biking. And I think everything we've built had always that kind of compass in mind. And I'm just here representing some of these amazing things that were done, and most of the credit goes to really the literally thousands of people that kind of had their fingerprint on this stuff through quarter century of work. Thank you.
Well, I'm really excited to introduce our next inductee, Dave Kelly Cullinan. Our 1992 downhill world champion and Mr. Style on the bike, right, Cully? He told us last night at Gestalt. We went over the whole style thing. Okay.
Hi.
That big arrow makes it go forward when Mark has it up. What? That makes it go forward.
I can say fuck, right?
If the live stream is good.
Okay. No, they're not. Okay, thank you. Thanks for having this event happen. It's been really challenging few years sitting in the garage, being without people, and missing the social endemic of mountain biking. That's what brought us together as a community. That's before I get started, how did mountain biking happen? Well,
up next to you, there you go.
Sorry, I don't have a lot of microphones at my house. I mean, it was about leaving one sport to the next, and a community and a family. It was adultism. It was, there we go. Okay. So that's a collage of the career. There was a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of wins and losses, and amazing times to be had. So Lee Donovan's like one of my best friends, and she said, you need to have a word that describes you, and it's resilient. I have gone through a lot. And for people that don't know my story, there's been a lot of things that have happened. But at the end of the day, I'm still standing. It's to quote Rocky, it's not if you can take the punch, it's if you can take the punch and keep going forward. And even today, I'm still trying to be resilient. So mountain biking started before that was my BMX career. I started riding as a kid, neighborhood type stuff. Neighborhood, the thing that back in the day was this thing called the bicycle rodeo, and I won that in 1978. And the neighborhood bully challenged me to a wheelie contest, and I was like, okay, let's bring it on. And that went well, and then he's like, well, you need to go to the BMX track. Well, I did. And in 1983, I started racing. And by the end of 1983, I had, felt like, okay, I think I found something I'm good at. In 1994, I won my first national, which was pretty rare for someone to be a year into the sport and winning a national. In 1985, I signed a factory contract, and being a paid amateur at 15 years old was really cool. Kids at school had paper routes, and I had a passport. So that was a really fun time. And kids nowadays have no idea how cool we had it. We have parents that have trackers and devices. My mom sent me to an airport, dropped me off at LAX, and said, good luck. And like, we'll see you in a month. Like that shit will never happen nowadays. And it was the best of times. Like being sent to France, and like you get to another country and you cannot read one sign. You're 15 and you have $300. That's it. There's no cell phone. So 85 was great to get that exposure. In 1996, I was luckily featured in a lot of magazines. I had a ability to jump a bike at a very high level. And it was my first national championship. And 2 years into the sport, to win a national championship was kind of a big deal. 1987, I was a BMX action test rider. And Blick will know this, but like that was a big deal. I was the first amateur to be a part of the professional world because I was very fortunate, again, to have the ability to ride a bike. 1988 was an amazing year. I was on a team called Bicycle Center, which we were, people forget about the role of a bike shop in this whole social network of mountain biking. But, and Troy was just the coolest guy ever, and it was our hub. It's how I got into mountain bikes, because that was my BMX shop, and it was such a cool life. Like, people hung out at the bike shop, and now we don't have that. People stare at devices all day, and they don't get connected. We don't do physical activities, and back then it was a big part of my life. We were awarded the best bike shop team in the country. We had the best guys. It was the best of times, and girls. Lee, who was we had Amy Hernandez. Yep. The girl that Dave stalked. What was her name? I'll remember. Sue, no, I can't remember. Anyways, and so in 1989, so my friend Stickman here, we were at the shop one night and started talking mountain bikes. And I wanted nothing to do with it because I knew how hard mountain biking was, because I had owned a road bike, and I knew how hard the cross-country races were. And Stickman was like, no, there's a new sport called dual slalom. And I'm like, it's kind of like BMX, but downhill. Okay, let's give it a shot. So I went to Mammoth, and again, this is about stories. So this was the coolest story. So I'm driving up to Mammoth, and Stick's filling me in. Like, I'm getting the Reader's Digest version of mountain biking, who the people are, what the sport's about. And again, I'm a BMX. Hans calls me a BMX clown. And we get there, and it's our first ride. And we're riding up the mountain, and here comes John Tomac, the other direction. And Stickman's like, holy shit, that's John Tomac. And I go, John. And he turns around, and Stick's like deer in the headlights, like, you know him? And I'm like, yeah. And John comes up, and I've known him for BMX, back in the BMX days, and Stickman was just blown away that the god of mountain biking was someone that I knew. And it was very surreal and humbling, and I felt really welcomed. And John was like, glad to see you tomorrow, just don't beat me, like kind of an attitude. But that was my first mountain bike race, and it didn't go well, not going to lie. I had the fastest time, but during the race, another funny story was I crossed the finish line in the quarterfinals, and I got a flat tire. Stickman, Troy, and a few other guys rushed out to fix my bike, and I'm yelling for a hacksaw. Okay, you got a flat tire, and I'm yelling for a hacksaw, and everyone's like, "Dude, you got a flat tire." I'm like, "Well, yeah, you guys will fucking fix that, but the seat post is too high. I need to cut the seat post down, so let's cut the seat post and fix the tire." But I wanted a hacksaw, so the next year, the back of my pants were adorned hacksaw because of the erroneous error that I made calling out for the wrong repair parts. Okay, this is when it gets good. Otis was pissed because I didn't send this intel today, and this is probably why. 20 years I haven't Googled anything. And when you're looking for stuff, you forget how cool your life was. Like this was, the people that were in your life that mattered. And you get choked up. You're just like, oh, that was cool. So 1990 was badass, not going to lie. Like, I was the first guy that was doing professional BMX and mountain bikes, and sitting down on the same team. I was on GT at the time, and sitting down with two different team managers to iron out a contract, then to go to the accountant and nail it all down. It's like a used car dealership at GT at the time. And Bill Nelson, who was the BMX team manager, was super awesome because that's how the team got put together, because he saw the value in mountain biking and put one budget into the next, and it was awesome. 1991 was my first year as a professional in BMX. I was fortunate to win the BMX #1, like the Rookie of the Year title. I was #2 in the country as a professional. And in mountain biking, I won the national championships in downhill. And it was like the first time an amateur beat the pros. I beat this Tomac guy. I don't know his name. First name doesn't ring a bell. But to beat Tomac as an amateur, it was like a big deal. And then that year, also at the Kamikaze, as an amateur, I set the fastest time. Did like 3 runs. And I kind of knew that's what I wanted to do. BMX was great, but it was 42 weekends a year, and mountain bikes racing was like 7. So not a math whiz, but I'm just saying, one's a lot less traveling than the other. 1992, that was awesome. That year, we set the world on fire. Stickman was my guy. Yeah, it was awesome. We lost like 1 race. And then, sorry, that's why I don't want to look at this stuff. 1993, we were world champs. We went to Europe on the full-time schedule. It sucked. I got my ass kicked anytime it rained. I was booking flights on Saturday for Sunday flights if I saw the weather forecast. We still managed to win a few races. We won like 2 World Cups that year. Yeah, I won the World Championships in the. Yeah.
The world wants to hear you.
Sorry, yeah, we won the Worlds in '92. It was like surreal. Yes. Woo! But 93 is, I think, when it got real, when we went to Europe, and it's a different, racing in Europe's gnarly. Like, the weather was a big part of it. And then 1994 happened. That's what the black dot represents. And if you think that your life cannot fall apart fast, please think of that black dot. I went from someone that was top of the world champion, and house on a golf course, and Tomac was my neighbor, to my entire family being gone, and my dad dying, and my health gone, not being able to race, crippled, and no future, just black. And for it lasted a year. But the slide I showed you earlier about resilience, I had a passion for this. You know, this is why it was so hard to put together, because I love the sport of mountain biking. I met so many amazing people. And I was a part of so many just crazy innovations. Like, when I got into the sport, there wasn't suspension. And I got handed these dog shit forks that had pieces of foam stuck in it. And, you know, we went 60 miles an hour in Lycra. You know, Jason McRoy was one of my best friends. And, like, we were idiots, like racing in Lycra with ice chests on our head, going at speeds that weren't, we would be arrested now if we tried to do that. And it was a really tough time, because it wasn't anything that somebody could have done or predicted. But resilience. I did a lot of reading about my condition, and I found a doctor that believed in me, Dr. Cystic medial necrosis, for your medical folks in the room. And I found a doctor that believed in me, Dr. John Doty and Dr. Donald Doty in Utah. And it was just a crazy story to call a doctor up who had read an article on you in Outside Magazine, and you tell him the story, and he's like, okay, when can you be here? And I'm like, tomorrow. And he's like, oh, you're going to fly to Utah? I'm like, yes. And to go through the biopsy and to go through all the tests, and he's like, okay, I think I can maybe get you back on the bike. And true story is, I signed a contract with Diamondback in the hospital 4 hours after I came out of surgery, with a contract that was an inch thick, full of legal documents. But Diamondback believed in me, and they're like, we want you back. That was cool. So that was 95. But unfortunately, I realized that my heart didn't work like it should have. You know, they put other parts in it, and anytime you fix something, it's not quite what it was. So I had to readjust. I had to realize that my heart didn't work as well. What else can I do? So in 96, I kind of shifted more to dual slalom, because it was a short anaerobic event. And I could still ride a bike, just wasn't as good. Didn't have the horsepower. And 1997, had a mid-year team change, and there was a guy that believed in me. And his name's Mert. And that photo is, sorry. Shit's hard, you know. And it's not a happy ending, you know. The guy dies in the end. So, but Mert came up to me, and he's like, hey, Cully, I want you on the team. And he sent me a bike the week before the World Championships. And it was like, good luck. You know, like, I think you can do good on it. And I had so much energy at that race. It was like, well, except for the first night, because Mert and I got shit-faced the first day. And I missed opening ceremonies. I got fined $250. And pretty much Warner and Cedric and I and Mert, like, was the best and the worst of times. But when you have confidence and you have people that believe in you, it changed my career again, and I felt confident I could win. And in '98, I won 3 more World Cups, another championship. And I went to the BMX Grand Nationals as a mountain biker and won the BMX Grands, which was like kind of a big deal for people that don't understand BMX. Like, it was like a part-time guy coming in and winning and raining on their parade. So 98 was fantastic. 99 started out awesome. That photo there of me and Eric Carter is from Winter Park. Actually, that photo, sorry, is from Big Bear. I won the first race of the year, got second in downhill. Thought it was, I'm on the mend. And then the other photo is a little accident that happened that cracked a bone in my wrist, and that was it. So, unfortunately, there was no big dramatic ending. It was just, I walked away. I didn't want to race at not the same level, and it was a bummer because I had fought so hard to come back after open heart surgery to compete again and to rebuild myself, but no, that was it. So next one, this one, arrow. Thankful. This is what I really want to say. There's a lot of people I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for my mom. I mean, I can't even follow that up. I'm thankful for the guys at Bicycle Center who I would never have raced mountain bikes if it wasn't for them. Stickman talking me into doing this race that changed my life has brought me some of the best friends I have, my ride or die friends. I'm thankful to all my sponsors that I've raced for through over the years that are still in contact with me. I'll tell you this, when you're on top, everyone's your friend. But when you get hurt and you're not that guy, I remember in '94 when my heart blew up, calling the phone company asking if my phone was disconnected because it hadn't rang in 2 days. And the thing used to blow up all the time, people asking for shit. And you're just like, hello, does it still work? Oh, it does? Everybody has my numbers? My number didn't change? Okay, got it. So thankful. I'm thankful for my friends that are in this room tonight that came up to support me, and my friends at home that couldn't be here. I'm the most thankful person you will ever meet because I know what it's like to not have it. And I'm thankful to have that opportunity. So my teammates, I've had some of the best, funnest teammates ever. When I got on Diamondback, I mean, Dave and Susan were the best. I blew their mind with my horrible diet. I mean, these are world-class athletes, and I'm eating frickin' McDonald's. Like, I'm eating cake frosting for dessert. And Susan DiMattei would look at me, and she's just like, what are you doing? And she was the first person that really got me to realize I need to get my shit figured out. Like, I'm not going to be a world-class athlete eating McDonald's and cake frosting. Yeah. Hopefully, sorry, hostess. I mean, and just all the years, and my later years with Mert, when Mert picked me up when nobody else would. Sorry. And like we had the Schwinn GT, Yeti. We were the best team. We traveled. We were like a family, and it was the best. Like I really hope that my kids can find something in their life that can connect that like that, because it was amazing. I mean, I've grown up with people in this room since I was 15 years old, and I hope to be with them another 50 years-ish. Yeah. So thank you to the Hall of Fame board for, considering my nomination and actually approving it. You guys clearly ran out of people. And I'm just thankful. I'm faithful. I'm grateful, and it's a tremendous honor that I am so proud to share with my family and my friends. So, thank you.
You're the man. You did great. Well, now our next inductees, which I hope Hans has Rob responded to your text or anything. Well, Rob McSkimming and Dave Kelly. Oh, there we are. Well, you're good. So you're here. Thank you very much. Good. So has anybody heard of the Whistler Mountain Bike Park before? You're going to hear the story.
Where's the, how do I do this thing?
Right here.
Okay, okay,
and Mark's
okay.
going to set it up for you.
All right, and this goes, okay.
Nice.
Aren't bikes great? Yeah. Really? Like listening to all these stories here tonight, I mean, it just gets you so inspired about what bikes can do for all of us. So it's been a wonderful night so far. Unfortunately, my partner in crime, Dave Kelly, the guy that you're seeing look at you from the right there, can't be here because he's out building some incredible trails somewhere in Utah doing his thing. So, you know, as we get into this, when we talk about, you know, accepting this award that we're very appreciative of and very humble to be able to receive, you know, we talk about it as accepting it on behalf of the Whistler Mountain Bike Park. And, you know, I say that only partially tongue-in-cheek because it took so many people, so many more people than the two of us to make the Whistler Mountain Bike Park the success that it's been over the last 20 or so years. It's taken, you know, it's had this impact on the resort and on us, and it's something that is much greater than just the two of us. So, when just to kind of frame it up in terms of, you know, how things worked with my partner Dave and I, you know, Dave was the guy that was the trail architect. So he's the guy that built the trails in the Whistler Mountain Bike Park. You know, my job as the leader of the Whistler Mountain Bike Park was to be able to, you know, be able to drive the business side of it so that we could get Dave the funds that he needed to be able to go out there and build more trails. And as Dave built more trails, more people came, we got more funds, and that's kind of how that collaboration worked back then, and it's kind of how it works, it continues to work today. Apologize for this slide, but when we're talking about the Whistler Mountain Bike Park, I think, you know, there's a few things that we need to talk about in addition to the park. So a couple of things that happened in the Whistler Mountain Bike Park that have had an impact in our industry really around the world is Gravity Logic and Crankworx. So two things that grew out of the Whistler Mountain Bike Park. And basically, Gravity Logic is a design consulting business that was part of an internal department within Whistler Blackcomb, as was Crankworx. And eventually those entities spun off to the employees that were running them at the time. And so Dave, now since 2008, is one of three partners in Gravity Logic business, and that's why he couldn't be here tonight, because he's around the world, you know, building some amazing trails and that sort of thing. And so one thing that I think is really important to recognize in terms of the success of the Whistler Mountain Bike Park is that, you know, really when you go back to when we took it over in 1999, it was really a lot about being in the right place at the right time. And so again, with this sort of amateur slide I have here, the blue chain rings on the right are us, you know, and we were, you know, really at that time, we were, you know, ski area operators, and we were pretty good at it. And then we found out that, you know, we also had a pretty good kind of natural resource in terms of, you know, the mountain biking facilities that we had in the area. But at the same time, you know, we really didn't know a huge amount about the mountain bike industry. And so the gold rings were all the people, and tons of them here in this room, tons of them in the Hall of Fame, tons of them in the industry that came to visit us that helped us to learn a lot about the mountain bike industry. And so I just say there's lots of people out there that have no idea about the impact that they've had in making the Whistler Mountain Bike Park as successful as it is today. And I think, I think one of the things that's interesting about the Whistler Mountain Bike Park is if you were to kind of trace its success and wind it back in time, all those trails lead back to the creation of one single trail, and that trail is A-Line. And how many people have ridden A-Line? Yeah, yeah. And so Dave created A-Line in 2001. And I think when you look at what's happened to that trail since then, it's really been, its fingerprints, its DNA are on almost every flow trail that you see around the world from that time. And so I remember I think it was 2001, standing at the side of the trail, and it was just like a train of riders just ripping down the trail one after the other, kind of hooting and hollering and screaming like you would on a powder day. And I knew then that we really had something that was going to be really powerful and really enduring in terms of the product that Dave was able to actually develop at that time. And so, I've often thought that Dave has created this masterpiece, and what better place than the museum for a place to be able to sort of highlight that masterpiece. So, I hope one day we get some piece of A-Line in here. I think would be appropriate in terms of its impact on our industry. So just to give you a sense of how far the mountain bike park has come since we took over its operation in 1999, I'll just give you a few slides of sort of the before and after and talk about some of the things that have happened along the way. So the photo on the left is, that's Dave in the middle there, and that's his crew with their sophisticated equipment. And it's probably sometime around 2001, 2002. On the right is a shot of the trail equipment that we used to build some of the bigger trails on the Creekside expansion around 2016, 2017. And so, really from those early days, it was Dave hired in 1999 to be a patrol manager, working on the trails in his spare time, using his own truck and his own chainsaw to get things done, to make things happen. And he often tells a story about this $10 tape. And so the way this $10 tape worked is he was working on a bridge. He drops the tape measure into the creek, kind of loses it. It might have been the bridge that was in that photo. And he goes and talks to the manager at the time, and the manager says, "Look, Dave, okay, this time, we're going to pay for that tape. Next time, that's on your dime." Right? And so, you look at how that was back in 1999 and where Dave is now, basically going around the world, building trails all over the place, and going from a $10 tape to trails that now cost, over $100,000 a kilometer to build. So a huge amount of change in that short period of time. And speaking of change and, how much things have grown and developed over time, again, this is a shot on the left of the Whistler Mountain Bike Park. I'm going to say it was 1999. And for those of you that have been there, the thing that's really striking about this photo is if you look in the background, there's the GLC, and there's nobody there. There's the Longhorn, and there's almost nobody there. And you look at the village, just a handful of people. And then you fast forward that to where things are today, and I'll tell you that when I look back in 1999, I would never have imagined that, the summer room nights in the resort would be almost as big as winter room nights, that, visits to the bike park would grow from 3,000 a year to over 200,000 a year, and that the GLC would go from closed to having some of its busiest days of the year, even though we're in a winter ski resort. And I think the thing that probably says a lot is in 2005, mountain biking in the resort of Whistler eclipsed the impact of golf at that time. Yahoo! And then and we were talking about Crankworks. Again, this will just give you a sense of the kind of growth that Crankworks has had over that same period of time. So on the left-hand side, you have Crankworks in 2004. So that was the first ever slopestyle event. And on the right, you've got this year's Crankworks 2021. And I think that's Emil on his victory lap. And so just a huge change in that, in that period of time. And so again, when you look back on it and you think, wow, it's amazing what's happened with that event and the impact that that event has had on the world of mountain biking. These are just some of the things that stand out. So 6 new sport disciplines have been created by Crankworks. So many on-site spectators, but also being able to generate over 60 million views in terms of online, which was something that was, that online broadcast was kind of pioneered through Crankworks. So, and you can actually watch it live later tonight from Cairns, Australia. So something I would have never thought of is that, starting in 2004 in Whistler, tonight in Cairns, Australia. And so, one of the things I think is really important to note is that, whether it's Crankworks, whether it's Gravity Logic, whether it's the Whistler Mountain Bike Park, all of those things have this commitment to, growing the sport overall. And I think this photo is just a killer. So on the left-hand side, you have Jackson Goldstone in 2011, and this was actually shot in at Crankworks in 2011. And then on the right, 10 years later, you have the same guy, Jackson, wearing the rainbow jersey at the Junior World Championships in France 10 years later. So amazing accomplishment. And so again, this just shows how the the bike park and Gravity Logic and Crankworks has been using programs, that sort of thing, for the development and growth of our sport. And so you've got, like, when you look at it all, there's kids that started programs up in Whistler at 3 years old. Hundreds of them in Crankworks. There's Kids Works competitions in every Crankworks that happens around the world. And I think it's, when we look at that and we see those things happening, it gives us confidence that the sport has tons of future, tons of longevity ahead of it. And so, if you can look at these two photos, they were actually taken from the exact same spot 25 years later to show you how much things have changed in that period of time. So you go from riding uphill to riding downhill, and you have this sort of 180-degree change in that period of time. So things have come a long way, and it's only amazing to think about how much things are going to change as we go forward into the next 25 years. So, I'll just close. Mark will do it? Okay.
We thought if we could take all that, put it in one place, it could really be the start of something, really, really big in the sport of mountain biking. This thing can become quite huge.
I would like now to present our 2021 inductee class. Inductees for 2021, come on up. There we go. This is for you and Dave.
I'll take one for Dave.
Yes. And you have both of yours. There we go. Thank you very much. Beautiful. Nice. And we got Rodette. Nice. 2021 Mountain Bike Hall of Fame class. So we're going to take an intermission for a few minutes. You're welcome to use the bathroom, go get some drinks, some food. You're all good.
And 2021 delayed to 2022 Mountain Bike Hall of Fame inductee Dave Cullinan. Come on in here into the camera here. I think I need to.
Okay, so I'm animated.
Here we go. We got Derek Westerland on the back end. How are we looking there, Big D? We in the frame okay? All right. Hey, Cully. Thanks for all you've done for the sport and great presentation. Thank you for sharing the stories. I have a few questions though for you.
Of all people, yes.
Let's move there.
I want to hear your questions.
Well, for one, let's talk a little bit about the transition of where mountain biking was in 1992 and what it took to win, and how did you win? What was the difference? What your competition was doing? You didn't really cover like your strategy. What did you do? How did you prepare? And talk us through like maybe the day before and that final run, and what were the obstacles and the challenges you had to face?
If you could shit bomb a speech better than what I did tonight, I'd be hard pressed for that. The mindset was so different, and what was awesome about this event was doing the research on it. I don't look and do research on myself on a normal basis, but I had a massive flood of memories. And when I got into the sport, I was a BMX guy. I was the brass guy. Like Joe Breeze looked at me when I came into this sport as like, we don't want that guy. I was chrome wheels and loud speakers and.
Hey man,
No.
I was just doing some testing on the microphone to make sure I got the right.
Oh yeah, he's got to make sure. Like
we got photo bomb here. Jim Busby. We'll be back to you next. But we're live right now, and you're right here. It's Jim Busby. We'll talk to you next. He'll be back.
Yeah, I'm first up.
Here, let's step back in this frame here. We'll go.
There we go.
There
Hey.
All right, let's rewind this. 1992.
So when
You're
I got
racing
into
downhill.
when I got into mountain bikes, it was a completely different mindset from BMX. BMX was 42 weekends a year, and kids everywhere, monotonous grind. Mountain biking was fun, inviting. It was an adult sport, and
There we go.
okay, and for me, it was about the mindset was I was motivated by the fun. Okay, I wasn't a grind. There was only like 7 races that we had to do, so it was fun. And luckily, I had a natural ability to go fast on a bike. I did the kamikaze. I did 3 runs, right, and there were guys that done hundreds of runs down that mountain. I did 3 runs, beat every pro by 7 seconds, and they were shocked by that. But I had a natural ability to go fast on a bike, and I could jump and I could corner, and it was just throwing a fish into the right pond.
What helped you win the 1992 Worlds? What exactly did you do to win?
The thing for me was the ability, again, to jump and to go fast around corners. At that race, it had rained 2 days before. The course was drying, and I had a really good talk with Stickman the night before, and him like telling me just slow down to go faster. There was a huge bridge that was almost 40 feet a span with 6 foot tall handrails, and I was the only guy able to jump that. And he goes, if you jump that, it'll be worth 5 seconds. So he goes,
Congrats, BMX clone.
thanks, Hansi.
Yeah, good. Well done. Good talk. Yeah.
Thanks, teammate.
Sorry, Blake.
Who are you?
I'm the
Trials guy.
the house master here.
John Miller?
Yeah, John Miller.
And so I literally, that run was probably the slowest run I did in 2 days, because I knew to save it for the jump. But I also didn't make any mistakes. I did not blow one turn, one braking point, one section. I found myself going way faster, riding within myself. When I crossed the line, the time spoke for itself. I mean, it was quite a bit faster than the other guys, and my emotions show that.
So, to me, what I saw was you were the one that really showed people where you could save time, just like Sticks told you. You could save 5 seconds. So now, today, we see a different style of riding, but I would want to feel that you probably had a lot of inspiration to show people that you don't have to stake your tires on the ground the entire time. You showed people a way to like connect dots through the air. And
you know what? I watched today's races. I mean, Greg Menard's a good friend of mine. I think the world of the guy. But when I watch him ride, he uses that same strategy of be smooth. You don't win the race in the first turn. You can lose it. And if you watch all these guys on any World Cup and you watch their body positioning, their aggressiveness, nobody's attacking the start of the course. Everybody builds up to it and builds up to it. And that's what you're supposed to do. You wind it up. And, in my opinion, Greg Menard is the greatest mountain biker that we will ever see. And he consistently shows what being in the moment and being poised and just being within yourself. And that's what I did. And Greg does it year after year after year. And, unfortunately, through my injuries, I didn't have that many opportunities, but I look at a guy like him and it's just amazing.
So, what would you say to a young rider entering this sport? If you were to give them advice, they see Greg, they see all these other heroes, someone new getting into this sport, what would you give them as some advice to have a lengthy, long career like someone like Greg? What does it take that you'd want them to know?
I would say find a mentor. Find somebody that you can surround yourself with that knows. Not some bullshit guy that has never been in it, who's never stood at the start line knowing the world championships are in front of you, and you have to connect the dots. It's a big mental set, and there's a lot of great riders that have never done it. So find someone around you that you can connect with that knows it. Second is be prepared with your fitness and your mind. Mental training is everything, but more importantly, you have to be physically strong. When I made my comeback, I didn't have the ability to train like I wanted to because I had a physical ailment, but I found a doctor that would help me train around that. So find somebody that can help you strengthen you, not in the same way, because not everybody's training is the same. I'll tell you a side story, but I learned so much about training. I worked with two BMX guys, Jamie Staff, Danny Nelson, and two completely different athletes. And I worked up their blood profiles. I would see it down to a granular level of what their genetics were. Jamie Staff, huge levels of growth hormone, huge vitamin content, huge capacity to recover. Danny Nelson, huge amount of power, but he wasn't the same person as Jamie. We trained different. Jamie Staff won a gold medal in the kilo. Danny Nelson won 2 championships in BMX. So find somebody that doesn't train you based on a generic profile, someone that trains you for you. What are you lacking? And don't focus on what you're lacking, but how can we emphasize the parts that you're not? So surround yourself with good people, be humble, and find someone that will work for you and not just, this is the training Bible that worked for Lance Armstrong or fucking blah, blah, blah.
Good advice. Well, thanks a lot. We appreciate all you've done and looking for more fun ahead.
See you next week. We're going riding?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Steve Blick, for everything you have done.
Thanks, bud.
All right, everyone, come on back. We're going to do 2022. Everybody, we're going to start back up again.
Okay.
We only have two.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
Unfortunately, but Mark was unable to put these edited, slided version in. So, anyways, I'm going to be speeding through slides. Have a seat, Kelly.
I know.
You're done. You had your time. You get no more time.
Hey, call.
Not your, I'll bring you up. Yeah. Everybody, welcome back to the presentation. One of our inductees, has anybody heard of Gunrita? And can you tell me which picture is hers? There she is. She has a 14-month-old who has a severe ear infection. Her mom, who is like super nanny, who like does everything for them, was on a hike a couple days ago and broke her arm. She has a new 4-week-old infant, and like she's not dumping Kenneth with a broken super nanny, a severe ear infection, and a 4-week-old. So she could not make it. She will be part of the class of 2023. We've already have our inductee elect for 2023. So for our first inductee for 2022, I'm extremely honored to present Jim Busby, a man who really made and brought full suspension bikes that work to the masses in many different ways, and I'm proud to have you up here.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Hello. Am I talking yet? Am I doing this okay? I know, I just got to make sure I got the one thing I know is I got to get the spacing right.
And we have the first slide.
Okay, so I wish I could sit here and tell you a bunch of wonderful things about me, but it's really the story of RTS, the journey that I went on, and a lot of other people that made me who I am. Up higher? Okay. So I started out, is that slideshow going? Yeah. Okay, right there. So I got a wife, a child, no job, and no education. So what are you going to do? My resume was to make a bicycle to show I wanted to be in the mountain bike industry. I was already riding mountain bikes all the time, and I loved them. But I needed to have something that I could show to them as a resume to say, look, I can do this for you. And so I do it with GT bicycles, and I give them the RTS. I made models for Richard Long and Gary Turner to understand it. And whoa, I just got confused.
Once these inductees become a real pain.
I know. Yeah, it's no, but so I go to GT and I show them the design, and I'm saying, look what I can do. I just need a job. Give me a job. So, and they give me a job. So for me as a person, my children, my grandchildren, GT Bicycles believing in me is the reason I'm here. The mountain bike industry believing in me is why I'm here. Zapata Espinoza believing in me, that's why I'm here. And so I think the RTS was the right bike at the right time with the right company that kind of ushered in an acceptance of full suspension, because it was basically an inverted design. It was meant to be topped out. It wasn't. There's no droop travel. So I think the RTS was the right bike at the right time. And if Julie Furtado didn't win that world championship, where she doesn't race downhill, and she puts a bike underneath her and wins the downhill world championship. My life changed so dramatically. I try to talk to her, like as just person to person, and I just barf on my shoes. I literally can't. I don't have it in me to talk to her, and I'm going, my dog, you know, because the impact that she has. I mean, everything that I am, like they say, it takes a village. It takes a village. I mean, bicycles don't make themselves. Bicycles don't ride themselves. You don't have the best riders. You don't have the best manufacturers. You're not going to have a good system. And I'm on the design end of it. So my design, in reality, a bicycle suspension is a passive system underneath an active suspension being the rider.
Now, this was some of your CAD drawings here?
Yeah, oh, that's the STS. That's the first STS right there.
That's SolidWorks. What's that say?
Yeah. Don't talk about idea. It was a note to self, obviously. I don't even know what I was working on. Someone got into a bunch of my notebooks. I've got to talk better in this thing. Someone got into a lot of my notebooks, and I keep seeing pictures of what it was I was doing at the time. Because remember, we didn't have CAD. We didn't have computer modeling or anything. So everything was done on notebooks. So I keep seeing this stuff, and like Otis put this thing together. That's the first LTS right there. Man, that looks good. No, it really, I mean, it takes me back because I haven't been in bicycles for probably 20 years. And I'm sitting here this whole time looking at all these different bicycles and seeing all this different stuff going, man, I got to do something in bicycles. I got to get one of those e-bikes because I got a bad hip, I got a bad back, I'm just falling apart. But man, I could do it with the e-bike. Then all of a sudden, I'm making tracks, you know.
So what's the drawing here again? What's this all set up here?
I have no idea.
You wrote it.
I know, but I don't know what I was doing. I could have been talking about 10 different things.
And what's the
Okay.
traffic division?
I probably have. I'm guessing I had a traffic ticket with Laguna. Which reminds me, without the Laguna Rads, I'm not here. They are that important. The development that they did, the testing they did, their input, changed everything. Dirk Mays, Dave Wonderly, it doesn't happen without them.
Well, aren't you in Florida now?
I'm in Florida, yeah.
I think you're good. I don't think Costa Mesa cares anymore.
No.
Just don't get a California driver's license. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I got the DMV and Costa. Okay. Now I know where you're going with that. No, so, well, no, if you would have, so on my spreadsheets, my main thing was, I should say my main thing was spreadsheets, running columns of numbers and watching them change. And I would have this one computer program that I could run it and watch the numbers change, and then I could translate that into the sensation I get on the bicycle. And that was probably the main thing I did was I needed the CAD. I had to teach myself CAD. I had to teach myself manufacturing. I had to teach myself all these things. But at the end of the day, I grew up in racing. I grew up in a racing family. And winning is the best deodorant. You win. And so, am I talking on this thing right now?
You're talking. And what do we have here?
Oh, Julie Furtado. Out of everything you see on the page, look at that name at the top. I have a really hard time taking credit myself for anything I do because it always is someone else, you know? I mean, if I was riding the bike, I'd probably say, yeah, I did it. But I ain't riding the bike. I remember that bike okay, so I remember being at GT and them saying, okay, Julie Furtado, we're going to make a bike for her. So I would hand make all this stuff. So I'd make it because for her it was a much smaller bike. So the top tube comes way down. So I remember making that bike and sending it off with no expectation that she was going to ride it. And whatever happened, she hurt her knee. She couldn't do cross country, and she wins the race. And I'm at Big Bear at one of the Norba probably or World Cups or something up at Big Bear, and you get the news, and it's just like your legs go weak. Like, this is Really? Like, it's surreal to me. So you're still doing things? Oh, yeah. That's Bouillot. Okay, so that's probably in... that thing was good. That thing was good. No, Panacosta, Spain. I bet that's from there. Or Sierra Nevada, which I don't know. God, that was fun. No, this was where Mike King. So he's doing testing, and well, I shouldn't say he's doing testing. He's getting ready for the race, and he comes in, and it's just typical Mike King, like just a heart the size of a lion, legs stronger than an ox, and he just there's no fear or something. He comes in, and the whole frame is completely fractured. I'm going, well, what happened? He goes, oh, there's a section on the track, and if you just go over everything, it's like jumping off a one-story, like 15-foot drop. He said, yeah, but if you make it, it's good. So the other thing was he made it, but the bike didn't make it. So I said, well, maybe we'll put a new bike underneath you, and next time you won't take these chances unless it's the final run on the final day. So anyways, I don't really have much more other than... Oh, this is where we contemplated if it's me or someone else.
That was you. We're going.
I could go with me because I would try to kick the inside of the turn right there. I'm trying to swallow dirt. Yeah. I mean, I wish it was me. I was probably in the pits at that race, working with the other riders.
What did you bring? What did your designs bring to the world of mountain biking?
Okay,
with the support of GT.
It was the RTS. It was the right bike at the right time with the right company. That satisfied the needs of full suspension. So full suspension could kind of flourish at that point. Okay, Dave. A Q&A.
He changed the philosophy of active suspension, and at the time, nobody was doing what he was doing, and having to race against that bike was like the ultimate buzzkill. He changed the wheel direction, and like it took out the rider's efficiency into the bike, and the rider could sprint, and the bike did what it was supposed to do, where we had to be all easy on the pedals, where it was, if you pedaled, the bike bobbed. I wanted to, but fuck Doug Martin. But yeah, Jim Busby was the absolute buzzkill for me because of his riders.
Sorry, Dave. Yes. I'm really sorry. Wait, so it was I lost track of where I was going with that one.
Well, the main thing is, guess what?
What?
You're in the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame.
I know. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm done.
So, AP, it's been very fun getting to talk to him a lot and play with his PowerPoints. Hans and I did a bunch of edits to the last one, but so much going on, so I may speed through some of his slides. So he's at the airport in Barcelona, with a bike he curated with Joe that was going to be presented here at the museum during the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame induction for him. He started vomiting quite a bit. While he's like sitting, he sent me a picture from the airport, luckily not with vomit in it. I didn't need to see the vomit, but with the bikes all set up, and he tested positive for COVID. So he did not make it out here, but we're gonna start off first with this presentation from when he's a small child. When you're ready, Mark. Actually, go to the start.
Finally, I couldn't come because of COVID. After checking all my bicycles at the airport, I couldn't take the flight. and we were everything prepared with Otis, the presentation. Also this bicycle is the first world champion, 26 trials world champion, 1992. I make also signed by my father, who was the maker of this bicycle. We had a front page of a bicycle magazine. We prepared also a nice picture for the museum. Everything was for the museum. I just want to say really sorry for this situation. I hope I can come again soon and enjoy all these 2 days Induction Marine Museum, and I hope see you soon, very, very soon. Thank you.
Nice. No, this will happen.
I'm going to introduce you one of the most important things of my life. The Otpi Park. Y aquí está la super torre. Comienza el relajo. Vamos allá. Vamos, suave, suave esa subida, constante, constante, oh.
President Kennedy, for Otpi, what can you do for your country? So for him, later on in 2020, his life really changed. You'll see the white bike here, a cyclist died here. And since then, he's always been riding a white bike since, in honor of cycling safety and really taking that on, Otpi play, the art of the bike. And so he went about at creating a platform to try and protect cyclists with federations and really tried to change laws and make roads better and safer for cyclists from seeing that bike in DC. And here a picture of defending rights for cyclists. with his work, and he's done a phenomenal job with that. And that was the white bike, stop access for security of cyclists on the road. So that's why you see him with white outfits. That's why you see him with a white bike to honor that campaign. So we just started that in 2020. And the ghost bike is a symbol of the bikers' security. All different. Here's a great shot of him getting a Bike Magazine Awards in 2022. So for us on the Hall of Fame, a lot of the things we say is, what was your ripple effect? What did you do that when you throw a stone into mountain biking, that ripple made an effect everywhere? So it's not just made an effect in one spot, it goes throughout. And that's, Hans is one who coined that, and that's really been something that's driven us to try and do a better job to make that happen. That was one of the things. OTP is bringing this up because I was talking about what is your ripple effect? How have you shown? What have you done to do that? And again here, lots of, of course, has Hans Ray been in the museum for a long time, in the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame? Yes, and is still very vital today with all his work. So we edited to 30 years. So it's not 40 years from 1992, but that's okay, but that's because we're all personalities. We like that. And here's a very good shot of him on a bike here. And this is more how his ripple effect was with his father and Monty Bikes, and then started Monty Bike Company. He was one of the first people to use oversized handlebars, went with a much longer handlebar. Early on use of hydraulic brakes, later on they started an electric bike company way back in 2002. Got together with Kevin Norton. They went on to promote the sport with Hans and really make the sport of trials really help grow, and then going towards riding mountain bikes extreme, and then to promote the security of a cyclist on the road. And he had this incredible park built. He did a tremendous amount of work in Asia, really promoting cycling, doing events, and just brought so many more people into the sport and got to see people doing things on bikes they can't imagine being done. For him in Asia, a huge legend over there. And he did classes, many different television programs, and just doing events everywhere and just introducing mountain biking to people all over the world. And these videos helped the stars we have today, in bicycle trials. They got to see these videos to try and help copy that. Just as Radek was saying with Pink Bike, to inspire people to do different things. And that's one of the huge things that OTP did. He was one of the first people to climb up a mountain. I'm sure when he means that is some severe thing. It's not like it's climbing up Mount Tam, right? And always been innovating. Magazines worldwide. And here on Got Talent in Spain, it had over 5 million views from his performance on that. Vegas with his white bike, his white shirt, and then he's more re-entered back into competing and showing, and this is back to being his life again. Been a fantastic pioneer and influencer. Helped Danny McCaskill, all these different people to really get into the sport and show what they can do and bringing it forward and making it more happen. And that's it. Thank you so much, OTP, for your contributions. So our final inductee of the evening, not that there's any pressure, whereas Tarek. So Tarek Rosali, please come up.
Yeah, if you don't mind, then I'm happy to. All right. Well, thanks first of all having me here. Really happy and honored to be inducted today with lots of legends, especially the 21. I was like so impressed by everyone, but also 2020 and of course all the years before. Yeah, I want to tell you my story because some of you might not know me. I was born in 1974 in Munich, and for me, biking started pretty early with a BMX bike, similar than Kali just before, and many others. And I was getting into BMX racing in 1983, when I was 9 years old, and and BMX was pretty much everything for me at the time. I grew up in the Olympic Park in Munich. That's where they had the local BMX track, and I made a bit of a career there in Germany and rode different championships and won German championships and but then actually in 1991 I had a phone call to do a photo shoot, mountain bike photo shoot. And I'm like, oh, mountain bikes, yeah, I know mountain bikes, and why not? My mom was a little bit worried because I was just 16, 17 years old, and she's like, you're going on a photo shoot? She dropped me at the train station and was a bit worried because a photo shoot as a teenager, it seemed weird, but yeah, all good. It was just a mountain bike photo shoot, so. And it was for KTM bikes and Puck bikes, so 2 Austrian brands at the time. This was in Sölden, Austria. Funny enough, they're a pretty big resort these days. And then slowly developed. Year after year, I did more and more of those shoots. And I was still racing BMX, actually. BMX was still that passion for me. But I got more and more into mountain biking. Then in, you will see also, actually in 92, I was 4th in the World Champs at the time, riding for McDonald's, which was pretty funny. It was my first proper sponsor in BMX. At that time, I also did shoots in Portugal. Was like the first place, big place I went to for 1 week shoot. And then it was like actually free riding at that time already. I would jump off cliffs into sand dunes and do stuff that I never thought I would be doing it, because I was actually, originally I was worried of heights, funny enough. But later on I would drop off 20-foot cliffs and so on. So then in those years I also did shows. End of 92, I went to Bike Magazine, introduced myself to Germany's Bike Magazine, Uli Stancio, who's also part of the Hall of Fame, and I said, hey guys, if you want to work with me, I can ride bikes and maybe a little bit with a bit more style, and I can do some tricks and jump and so on. And he respected that and invited me to a shoot to Spain, to the Canarian Islands, only a few months later. And it was pretty funny because at the time, you see that cover on the top, that's from exactly that shoot. It's like a cover from, 93. I'm in tight pink pants. Everything pretty not cool if you compare it to today. And but at the time it was okay. But it was cool because I had Vans on, actually. I was wearing Vans shoes, and that was kind of odd because the next shoots, they said, well, you can come back to bike shoot with us, but you have to be clipped in. You cannot wear flat pedals, and you have to shave your legs. Well, I was pretty good at adapting, and that's what I did. So just in order to do that, and a few years later, everything changed, and I didn't need to shave my legs, and I could wear baggy pants and flat pedals and Vans shoes again. But that was, well, what, later on? They were pink then. Later on, well, I had sometimes funny outfits for sure. Yeah, I kept racing BMX because it was the passion, but actually I financed the whole BMX racing with my mountain bike career. So I was on shoots, I was doing shows, I got sponsorship. I was picked up in '98 by Red Bull. At that time, actually originally for BMX racing still. In that same year, I was also team manager for Vans and Diamondback, but in Germany. And then in '99, I decided to stop with BMX. It was I grew out of it, and also in Germany, that was hard to have a real proper career. But mountain biking was really driving me, and I thought, well, I want to continue mountain biking. It's fun, and suddenly I could also concentrate on being with a brand that has not BMX and mountain bikes, but be like some brand. And I actually, because I was on GT in 98 and 99, and then GT dissolved the whole team in Germany. So I looked through magazines. I'm like, I saw actually the Fro Riders riding Rocky Mountain, and I was like, well, they're doing exactly what I'm doing. So jumping, riding down steeps and slopes and so on, and yeah, there we go. I call Rocky Mountain Germany, and I knew the guy from events, Dirk Jans, and he's like, well, you know what, we have the Fro Riders, we don't need anybody. And a few months later, I went to Lago di Garda Festival, and I saw Dirk again. I came with my portfolio, and my portfolio was not too bad, as you can see in the next slides. You can see it probably. Well, this is a bit more from those BMX times. You see the McDonald's outfit there. That shot is from '84, one of the first races in '84. Which one? The one with the no, with the McDonald's. That's in '92. Yeah, that was '92. The team really started in around 90. And yeah, and then yeah, you see here a few covers, and yeah, with those covers, I came also to talk to Dirk Jans at the Garda Festival, and he's like, "Oh, we got to do here something. So let's get you on Rocky Mountain. I'll talk to the Canadians, and we make it work." And from that moment on, I also met properly Richie Schley, Brett Tippie, and Wade Simmons. They were over at Garda, and they came back to Munich, stayed with me. I got the first bike, and it was like everything from then like turned into like my proper mountain bike career. Before that, it was, you know, it was a mix of both, and from that moment on, it was even more fun. It was so much fun. We went, we traveled a lot. We went to different places. I mean, I traveled a lot before, but usually it was for catalog shoots or for magazine shoots, but it was not because I was, you know, Terry Grazzulli, a European Fro rider. I was like their Euro guy. And yeah, there's a few shots. Actually, it was a shot of Bob Allen, which I'm really happy that he's here. And yeah, you know, here on the right here. Yeah, anyways, then, yeah, these are some shots. This was the adventures, more of the mushroom drop. Maybe some of you know it. I jumped that. In the first year, I had to kind of prove myself because I was new in the team. I didn't have like the budget in that year because it was like during the season was like, okay, you get this bike, that's it. For next year, you get a proper deal. And that was fine because I had different other sponsors and Red Bull and so on. And but I would always be the guy that wanted to go first and guinea pig, usually, especially when I was with Richie, Wade, and Tippie, because we were pretty similar level from riding. Wade was better riding some very technical steep lines. Tippy, of course, was always the guy that took down chutes and places where I was like, okay, I don't do that, or flat drops or something. And but anyways, this was good times. And then on the top here in the middle, I'm sure you've seen those images with Hans. I went on an adventure with Hans to Cuba. This was amazing, and Hans is a dear friend from already in the 90s. We did stuff together. I remember on one of the Bogner films, I was at the premiere jumping in for Brian Lopes. And on the far left, that's actually a few days before my accident. This is, in Kamloops, 2002. I was with Wade, Richie, and Thomas Vanderham is there. Tippy at the time was already on Specialized, I think. So then, it was really a good, amazing time, and the filming was really important. So I did in 2000 and 2001 filmed for Crank 4. Had a good segment, well, actually 2 segments in the movie, and was extremely fun going to Morocco with Tippy and another French guy, and then Richie, Wade, and Tippy and me were in Switzerland. And it was important to be in the movie because at the time there was no YouTube, there was no Instagram. It was the magazines, but the magazines was of course not enough. Like it was the movies which were really important, and there were only 2 really outstanding movies, which was Cranked, and then New World's Order also started a little bit later. And so I went, it was 2002, in July 2002, I went to Whistler and was a coach. Actually, Jeff Gullivich was one of the kids in the camp. I was a coach together with Thomas Vanderham and Wade Simmons and Richie. And then we shot for the Rocky catalog, and I was actually, the main reason was to shoot for Crank 5. But it was really difficult to get a hold of Bjorn Enga, and at the time I didn't have a cell phone that worked in Canada, of course. And anyways, we reached each other eventually, and he asked me to come to Sun Peaks, and then I was like, okay, I do my best. I changed my ticket and come to Sun Peaks because they had the perfect spot there. They had the other writers were Johnny Waddell, Aaron Peters, and Dave Watson, and myself. So went there. Actually, it was a little funny because I arrived I drove from Whistler to Sun Peaks, and when I arrived, they said the permit doesn't go through. We have to pack the car and go to a different site. And he had just one more meeting in the morning, but let's pack the cars and probably we have to go to Williams Lake or a different location. So he has the meeting and comes with a green light and says, hey, actually we have the green light. We can do now everything we want here, and let's go to the different spots. And we checked out different spots to get something built, and one of the spots was a dirt half pipe. We did a shoot on the afternoon. Actually, it was just Johnny, me, and Bjorn going up the chairlift. And I was sitting in the chairlift. It was a beautiful sunny day. And I said, oh, it's so beautiful here in the wheelchair. And I was like shaking. I'm like, in the chairlift. And they were laughing like, you're not in the wheelchair. And but it's actually beautiful in the wheelchair right now, by the way. And then I went, we were shooting some, let's say, more mellow lines, like just downhill riding and fast lines for about 2-3 hours. And then the first jumps were done at the half pipe in Sun Peaks. And it was like end of day. And Johnny and I said, okay, let's check it out. And we want to see what it looks like and maybe already guinea pig them and jump them. And that's what we did. Bjorn went down with the last lift, so he didn't even come and bother and didn't film. I was very anxious to to do the jump first again, which was not extremely smart. Johnny was a better rider than me, I have to say, because he was a downhill pro at the time, also on Red Bull, and was like super fast. I met him only once before in Australia, and but I wanted to go first. It was like my intuition was to do that jump, and it was like a jump into a half pipe. It was about 35 to 40 feet out, 10 feet down and to the left. So a hip down, step down hip. I went, I went first, and I asked Johnny, what do you think, like 1 or 2 pedal strokes? He's like, oh yeah, I would do 2. I did only 1 because my setup was different and was just rolling down the hill. And I jumped and I jumped and I passed the landing and went way too far and actually let go of my bike, which was also a mistake at the time, because usually when you jump and you land in flat, you would maybe stay on your bike, but my wrists were not 100%, my ankles weren't 100%, and my neck wasn't 100%. I had some falls in that year already, so I landed from about 20 feet up in the air on my feet and broke my heel and my first lumbar vertebrae and couldn't feel my legs anymore. So battery is running low. Okay, I think we gotta move on here. We gotta get faster. Yeah. You wanna? Yeah, maybe next slide. Then my life changed, of course. Like I had no idea where it's gonna go or how it's gonna go. But what I noticed and what was really amazing was I had amazing support. Support from people, emotional support, especially from the mountain bike industry. From people, I remember the first days, I think Rob McSkimming also came by the hospital in Vancouver. Of course, Richie, Tippy, Wade, and they came even also in Germany to the hospital. I remember they came once after Eurobike. They donated or they raised some money at Eurobike, like 6,000 euros. I was like super overwhelmed. And Hans came by, Steve Böhmke came by. It was pretty cool just to see like that constant support. And I was not any little bit bitter about mountain biking, because in the end it was my mistake. I was still stoked and I was really into mountain biking. And because at the time when I stopped, just the first contest started. I did a couple of contests, some good, some not so good. Like I remember Red Bull Ride in Australia. In the last practice run, I hurt my neck, so I couldn't finish or do the contest actually. Anyways, but I still had no idea what to do. I came out of about, like, it was 4 months in hospital and rehab. I came out, and the first proper meeting I had was at Bike Magazine, and they offered me a free editorial or editor position to do reports on events, on athletes, and they knew I had good connections and network over here. So I did this, like, it's a double page called Dirt Bike or Dirt Bike Pages. And I remember going to Cedric Gracia's home and doing a profile with him, or going to a Red Bull Race Down or different events. And then I got a call from this Canadian guy that lived also in Munich, and he asked me to do a movie premiere together, New World Disorder, I think it was 3, like Ride the Lightning. And that was the first event I put on with him. And then the next thing was urban freeride event. He had Corey, his name was Corey Moore, and he had a location down in southern Germany where he knew the mayor, and that was right to the lake in 2004. Blake remembers the event probably quite well. I've seen in Laguna a poster from there actually very recently of Kyle Strait where he jumps down. unreal for me to still see that poster because it's like 18 years ago. Yeah, and Ride to the Lake was the kickstart for my career, my second career, let's say, and what I'm doing today. Because after that event, I looked after sponsorship, PR, and athlete invitation, and Corey looked after the course design and course build. And I got so many requests on doing events, but I had not really an idea how to do it. But I looked for a business partner. Corey had her own job, so I looked for a business partner to open a company, and that's when I found a Resolution originally with a friend of mine. She left the company in 2011, but that's Resolution and focusing on mountain biking. The reason for me, or the motivation in general for me, was to make the sport bigger, and it's especially on the athlete side, because as an athlete like myself, I was a pro athlete, but I was not, well off or safe after my accident. I had to work and had to try and make a living at some point, or as quick as possible. I had some insurance, but it was not enough. No pension or anything like that. And many athletes, athletes in any sport sometimes don't know their value. Then the sport was still so young and undeveloped in some way, but I saw that there is a huge entertainment point. Like, people are entertained. There were already at the time, we felt like millions of people that would look at it, whether it's in magazines or sometimes on television. And that's how I started. And so I started with Resolution, with events, with athlete management and communication services. So we, in 2005, also created Red Bull District Ride, which I don't know if some of you have heard of the event. I mean, some of you have heard of the event, I know. But it's something that was at the time already like, wow, 40,000 people we had on site in 2005. It happened beginning of September this year. Again, we had 120,000 people actually in total. We had 90,000 people on the final day on Saturday, which you see in 2022. And in between there were, of course, a few other stations. We signed athletes. Originally it was like our first athlete, I think, was John Hansen. Then later it was Martin Söderström, Andrea Lacundeji, Danny McCaskill. We worked with him since 2009. So there's been, little bit of, we were able to contribute, or I was able to contribute to the sport and support athletes, support brands, and support the vision to make mountain biking really bigger. You see here some shots. Sometimes it's a challenge. Here you see a photo of me discussing with the riders. It's windy in the Olympic Park. It happened a few times. Some of you might have seen X Games. It was quite the big challenge. Berrecloth was there. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. In general, I mean, I'm extremely pleased and happy that I can be still in mountain biking. It's a different perspective for me, of course, but it's almost like I'm still riding. I'm riding through my athletes, but through athletes that are at our events, or through brands we work with, if it's video production, or we communicate. For example, the UCI World Cup, we communicated for the last many years for Red Bull Media House. And it's like mountain biking is my life, really, I have to say. And here's, new goals. I mean, new goals, same dreams. I mean, the goals today, I would say, is like just to spread cycling in general. I live in Munich, which is a big city, lots of cars, but also lots of cyclists, But for me, there can be way more bikes, more cyclists, and I want that people commute more with bikes and use really bikes for in their daily life way more than cars. Yeah.
I'd like to bring up our 2022 inductees. Come on up. Here we go. Mr. Busby. That's all your little stuff here, and here's your award.
Oh, magic.
And face this way for pictures, and I'll be... And please, all 2020, 2021 inductees, please come up with your awards. That includes you guys. You're already here.
What exactly did I get here?
You got a jersey that says inductee on it. You got all kinds of little stuff. You were fine. You're good. Come on. Behind you. Rob, get on up here. I'm here to present 2020, 2021, and 2022 Mountain Bike Hall of Fame inductees. Well, World Stream, this is it for our evening, our 2020, 2021, and 2022 Mountain Bike Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I hope you've learned a lot about the sport of mountain biking and the people that help make it such an incredible sport. You're going to see a wonderful 2023 class. We can't wait to live stream it to you next year. If you're in Fairfax, come on by, visit the Marin Museum of Bicycling, go for some wonderful rides around here. I'm very easy to find. I'm happy to take you for a ride and have fun, and thank you so much for watching this. This has been extremely special and important to us, and we want to serve the public and serve the sport of mountain biking. Thank you.